Hi guys, it's me, ChazzaHD, and welcome to the race watch along for the 2019 Monaco Grand Prix here, of course, in Monte Carlo. And we are in, I think, for not a bad Grand Prix. Don't expect, great racing throughout the entire Grand Prix, but we are definitely going to have an interesting Grand Prix, definitely in the midfield. That's basically after Sebastian Vettel on the grid. It's going to be very close in that midfield battle with also Pierre Gastly and Charles Leclerc, who we know are in top team cars. But it's going to be tough for those drivers to battle through the pack. Hopefully you guys are doing well today on this, what is for me, Sunday afternoon. And no matter where you're on the world, no matter what time it is, hopefully you are ready for the Monaco Grand Prix. As you can see in the top left, we are starting in just under 1 hour's time in Monte Carlo. But if you did miss the all-important qualifying session from yesterday, let me now take you through the results of said qualifying. So Lewis Hamilton got his second ever pole position at Monaco yesterday from Valtteri Bottas, and second Max Verstappen was third, Sebastian Vettel fourth, Pierre Gastly was fifth, but because he blocked Romain Grosjean during Q2, he has took a 3-place grid penalty and he will be starting from P8, so that promotes Magnussen up to fifth, then Ricciardo up to sixth and Kvyat up to seventh. And then you got Sainz and Albon in P9 and P10. And then P11, Nico Hulkenberg, P12, Lando Norris, P13, Romain Grosjean, 14th, Raikkonen, 15th, Antonio Giovinazzi. But again, like Gasly, he has a 3-place grid penalty because of blocking. His incident was with Nico Hulkenberg in Q1. So he will start Antonio back in 18th place. And that promotes Leclerc, Perez and Stroll up. And then, of course, at the back will be the two Williamses. But I think now, after we've just gone through the results of qualifying, let me now go into the teams and what I expect from the teams in the Grand Prix today. And let's start off, of course, with the best team in Formula 1 right now, Mercedes. And, well, as long as they get away from the start absolutely fine and in a 1-2 formation, they really should finish 1 and 2 in this Grand Prix. They really should. They have the best car. Their race pace is arguably just as good, if not better, than their qualifying pace. So they are set. If they get away absolutely fine, they are set to really dominate this Grand Prix ahead of drivers and teams such as Max Verstappen, Sebastian Vettel and Red Bull and Ferrari. The only interesting thing that I'm looking out for in this Grand Prix for this team is the start. Because, of course, at Monaco, if you're going to win and you're in second place, you really do have to beat, the guy down into turn one to have a realistic chance of winning. Because if you don't, then chances are you're not going to have an opportunity to go for the win. So, for Valtteri Bottas, if he wants to win today, I mean, of course, there are other ways he could win it. If Lewis Hamilton has a reliability issue, but if he doesn't, the only way Bottas can win is if Valtteri gets Lewis down into turn one and on the exit of turn one up the hill into Casino Square. That's the only way I see Valtteri Bottas beating Lewis Hamilton today. But without a doubt, Lewis Hamilton is the clear favourite for victory in Monaco. Next up is Ferrari. Well, yesterday was rather comical, wasn't it? Sebastian Vettel finished in P4, but he tried his best at times to not finish in P4 by hitting the wall a couple times and locking up a few times as well. But at least he did finish P4, and I think he did get the best out of the Ferrari car that he could have. And for Charles Leclerc, of course, an absolute disaster with Ferrari and their famous strategy destroying his weekend as he got knocked out in Q1 because they did not send him out for a final run in Q1. For Charles Leclerc, we'll start off with him. I'm going to be honest, I'm struggling to see how Charles Leclerc finishes in the points because, for example, if you look at last year when Max Verstappen started at the back, he was in the best car that day in Monaco and he only got up to P9. Charles Leclerc's in the third best car around this track. Now, his car does have the straight line speed, but it doesn't have the grip. So I'm struggling to see how Charles Leclerc absolutely gets into the points today. I think he can, but I don't think it'll be a top 8 finish. I think the best he can hope for is a P9 or a P10. But with cars ahead, such as Kimi Raikkonen, for example, in the Alfa Romeo, or Nico Hulkenberg in the Renault, and then you get up to Ricciardo and the 2 Toro Rossos, it's going to be tough for Charles Leclerc to get a point today. And I think we'll really see how good he really is around this track. And see if he can overtake with that Ferrari. He should be able to overtake a couple people, but it will be hard. For Vettel, though, well, the only chance he has of a podium is by gaining a position into turn 1. If he does that, then I think he does have a good chance of a podium because it is so hard to pass at Monaco. But if he doesn't get up to P3 at the start, I think he will be left behind by Hamilton, Bottas and Verstappen, because the Ferrari on race day, in terms of race pace, does tend to fall back quite a lot. Just look at the Spanish Grand Prix, for example. So, yeah, Ferrari, for Vettel, if they're going to get a podium, it has to be them getting into third at the first corner, because if they don't, I just don't see how they can do it unless Verstappen has, you know, some kind of power issue or something like that. But there you go with Ferrari. And next up, Red Bull. Red Bull with Max Verstappen, I think are in for a good day today. They should get at least P3 in terms of pace. But also, I think if Verstappen can really pull out a great performance today, like he has really this season, I think he could be able to stick with, say, the second of the Mercedes cars at the front, because I think in terms of race pace, he won't be losing an absolute ton of time. I think he'll probably lose a quarter of a second a lap to the Mercedes, but that's not enough for, say, Max to fall out of DRS or anything if he, you know, stays within the DRS after 3 laps. So I think Max, if he really does well today, he can definitely stick close enough to those Mercedes cars to give the Mercedes team something to think about when it comes to the pit stops, in case, you know, Max tries the undercut or something like that. But realistically, I think P3 is what is on the cards unless he does get up to P2 at the start. For Pierre Gastly, it's going to be a tough Grand Prix because, yes, he does start P8 and he has 3 cars ahead of him that are slower, but not that much slower, because Kevin Magnussen, for example, in qualifying was only a 10th slower and could have gone faster if he didn't have a broken front wing. Daniel Ricciardo was only a couple tenths slower in his Renault. So because of the closeness in lap time, even though the Red Bull on race day does tend to be one of the best cars on the grid, I'm struggling to see how Gasly gets past those drivers unless he does a massive overcut or something like that. I don't think on track Gasly will be passing those drivers. I think that will be a bit tough to do, again, considering how close they are on lap time to, you know, Daniel Ricciardo and Kevin Magnussen with Pierre Gastly. So it's going to be tough for Gasly, but if he can do an overcut, a long overcut, and get past those drivers and get back into the top 5, then I think that'd be a good enough result for Gasly as he continues to, not massively, but slowly but surely improve his form at Red Bull Racing. But guys, before I go on to the midfield, let me know right now in the live chat, what do you think will happen for the top teams? For Mercedes, do you think they are going to dominate? For Ferrari, where will Charles Leclerc finish? And do you think Vettel can get a podium? And do you think the start is critical to that? And for Red Bull, do you think Gasly can get into the top 5? And for Max Verstappen, can he hang on to those 2 Silver Arrow cars? And can he possibly perform an undercut if he's close enough? Let me know in the live chat, and I'll read out as many comments as I can for the next 5 minutes or so, and then we will go on to the midfield. midfield, a very close midfield here in Monaco. Just want to say though, before I go on to the live chat, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this, as we do watch-alongs for practice to qualifying and the race every single weekend. We'll be doing it again in Canada in 2 weeks' time, so don't forget to subscribe for that. Bottom right of the screen, you can subscribe right there, or if you go to my homepage, you can obviously click subscribe and also hit the notifications bell, and also don't forget to hit this video with a like. But I'm sure, as you can hear, my throat's not in great condition yet. It will get better once we get to the race start. But before I read your comments, let me have a quick drink so I can quell it down, and then I'll get to reading your comments. Right, so let's see what you guys have to say, and well, great to see so many people here already, almost 200 of you. In fact, about 200 of you are here, so that's great to see. Thank you very much for coming along. Right, let me take a look at some comments here. E7 Suspect says the race won't be boring, strategy will be very interesting. It will. Definitely with Gastly and Leclerc, it'll be interesting to see what they do. Of course, Ferrari, if you've seen Twitter, interestingly, Mr. Inaki Rueda on Friday, where there was no F1 action, he was giving journalists a lesson in why the overcut is so important at Monaco. Of course, Mr. Rueda is not exactly great at what he does, so it'll be interesting to see how he cocks up this time. But yeah, with those drivers, it'll be interesting to see how they get past the slower drivers, whether they do an undercut or an overcut. Also in the midfield, it will be interesting to see who blinks first. If Max Verstappen stays close enough to Hamilton and Bottas, will he go for the undercut or the overcut? We'll have to see. I think the top 4 drivers, if they get away line astern and start to pull away from Magnussen and Ricciardo, which they will, because they're much faster, then what they're probably going to do is stay out on track until a gap appears behind them, or until everyone behind them pits, so they can, pit and come out in clean air and not get held up, because that's why the overcut at times at Monaco is so powerful. Because if someone ahead of you pits and then comes out in traffic and you stay out, you can gain time even with older tyres, because you're in clean air. Clean air at Monaco is so important. If you're in dirty air, you're definitely losing a lot of time, at least half a second a lap. At the very, very least, maybe a second at times, depending on how quick you are compared to the car head that's holding you up. So, yeah, dirty air, getting held up at Monaco is very critical to one's race result, and that will be interesting on strategy as well. Right, let's read out some more comments. Mozilla says, hoping for great things from Danny Rick. We'll get on to him in a moment. Memek asks, will there be rain? I don't know if there will. There are rumours that there is a thunderstorm around, but I don't know if that means that it's definitely going to rain. It might do, it might not. We'll have to see. It's one of those. It's a 50-50 at the moment. Hopefully it does, because we will get a great Grand Prix. Whenever it rains in Formula 1, normally we do get a great Grand Prix, but when it rains at Monaco, it's something else. So hopefully it does. Right, let me find a couple more comments. And yeah, Dennis O'Boyle saying, and yep, that is true, there is an 80% chance of rain at the end of the race. Not sure if it is that high, but still a solid chance. We have had similar percentage numbers before for rain. For example, the 2018 Spanish Grand Prix, we had a 90% chance of rain that day, and it never rained at all, and it never got close to raining. So just because it's an 80% chance doesn't mean it will happen. It's likely not to happen, honestly, because rain tends to happen when you don't expect it in Formula 1. But let's hope it does happen. Right, let me find a couple more comments here. Peter King says Gasly is the driver to watch. He will beat Vettel for P4. I don't think he will. Unless Vettel has shockingly bad race pace or has to pit an extra time, I don't see that happening. I really don't. Right, let me find a final comment to end on. Ace Ray says, hope it will be like 1996. If it was, me and Nib, who, by the way, Nib will be on soon. He will be probably joining us in about 20 to 25 minutes from now. But yeah, if that happens, if that type of race happens, me and Nib are probably going to lose our voices through, screaming and shouting that much. But there you go. But now, let's get into the midfield, starting off with Renault. Their qualifying yesterday was probably one of their best of the season, to be honest, with Daniel Ricciardo in P7. He will start, of course, P6 because of Pierre Gasly's blocking penalty from qualifying. So looking good for Daniel Ricciardo. Nico Hulkenberg, P11. I think Hulkenberg could be in for a couple points today. It really does depend on what tyres he starts on and where he is in the pack and if he's getting held up or not. Because I think the Renault car is definitely faster for him than P11 on the grid. So I think Hulkenberg does have a good chance of a couple points. It'll be interesting to see what tyres he goes on. Of course, Hulkenberg is the first driver on the grid who can go onto whatever tyres he wants to, whether that's a fresh set of soft tyres or fresh set of mediums or fresh set of hard tyres. So will be interesting to see what Hulkenberg does. But for Ricciardo, if he can get Magnussen down into turn 1, I think Ricciardo, because the Renault is better when it comes to race pace than the Haas, so far in 2019 that has been the case. If he can do that, I think Ricciardo could pull away at the front of that midfield pack. So he will really give it his all down to turn 1, because I think he knows that the Haas will struggle a bit on the soft compound tyre to keep that tyre in and to not, wear it out massively. So definitely Renault are going to be going for Haas in turn 1, I think, with Daniel Ricciardo. But looking good for Renault going into the race. Hopefully nothing goes wrong for them, because they do need to respond to other teams in the Constructors. Next up is McLaren, who of course are P4 in the Constructors. Their qualifying, I thought, was not great, but it was good. Carlos Sainz in P9, Lando Norris in P12. To be honest, I think that's better than what McLaren were expecting. They were probably expecting to be with both cars, say, around P12, P13, but getting a car into P9, that is really a very, very good job indeed by Carlos Sainz. We know Carlos is very good at Monaco from the past few years, but yeah, very, very good performance by Carlos Sainz. And for me, as long as Carlos Sainz finishes where he starts or even higher, that's a good day for McLaren. If they score points today, it's a good day for them, because I don't think, again, they were expecting to come here and finish in the points, because you have quick cars like the Haas, you have quick cars like the Renault, Toro Rosso as well. So a points finish for McLaren, I think, has to be the goal, even if it is P10. I think, considering where they're starting, though, they will aim to finish at least in P9 with Carlos Sainz. But if they nick a point in P10, I think that'd be enough for them to take away from this Grand Prix, because I don't think the other teams in the midfield are going to pick up, an absolute ton of points today compared to them. And I think they are likely to hold on to P4 in the Constructors if they do finish in the points today. Next up is Alfa Romeo, who were looking so good up until qualifying, and then in qualifying they massively disappointed and ended up in P14 and P15. Giovinazzi, of course, drops back to 18th. So Giovinazzi, unless there's craziness ahead, his race really is over in terms of getting into the points. For Kimi Raikkonen, though, I think his chances of points are not good, but I think he does have a small chance of doing so, because if we get a race where, say if there's a crash at the start, or say if there's a safety car because of a crash, or, you know, a couple reliability issues, because Kimi Raikkonen is so consistent, and you can rely on Kimi to, you know, drive around Monaco and not risk putting it in the barriers, and putting it in the barriers full stop. I think he does have a small chance of, you know, nicking a point, but realistically, I don't think Alfa will. I think the best they can hope for is probably P12. But again, if there's chaos ahead, if people are making more mistakes than usual, don't count out Kimi for an outside chance of a point. Next up is Haas F1. Kevin Magnussen, I think, has to be shouted out, and I still don't think this guy, for his qualifying pace yesterday and for his qualifying pace in the last year or so, I don't think the guy's getting enough credit. His lap yesterday was so good, and it could have been even better if he didn't have damage on his front wing. So great effort yesterday by Kevin Magnussen. Starts in P6, or no, starts in P5 but qualified P6. He really should, if he gets away fine and maybe does gets a run on Vettel, or maybe gets past him, he could really get a top 5 finish today. He could. Even though the Haas car on race day doesn't tend to be that good. I think you're kind of telling this as well, guys, from what I'm saying. A lot of what is going to happen today really does depend on the start of the Grand Prix. If you get away without losing a position, you're probably going to have, if you're in the top 10, you're probably going to have a good Grand Prix. And I think the same really goes for K-Mag. If he gets away fine, he should be finishing in the top 7 at the very worst. And that, I think, would be good enough for him, considering how the season has gone so far, and also considering that the Haas car on race day doesn't tend to be that good. For Romain Grosjean, though, I think he is in for a tough day. Starting 13th, he should be starting higher because, of course, he was blocked by Pierre Gastly in qualifying. So I think he should be in clean air. Romain Grosjean should be a top 10 runner, but because he will be held up by, let's be honest, slower cars like Lando Norris and Hulkenberg, he's probably not going to go anywhere in this race. I don't really see him going anywhere in the Grand Prix. I hope he can, you know, really get up there into the action, but realistically, I don't think Grosjean will get up there. And I think if there is chaos, he will most likely be involved in it because, well, he normally is. Next up, Toro Rosso. Because of Gasly's penalty, Kvyat is promoted to P7 on the grid. Very good qualifying for Danny Kvyat. Alexander Albon starts in P10. Toro Rosso looking good. Qualifying could have been better. I think the Toro Rosso car definitely had more pace in it, but as we know, the Toro Rosso on race day tends to be a better car. Not massively better, but does tend to be a better car, and I think that will translate today. If they can get or, you know, do an overcut or an undercut and get the clean air needed, I think they could gain a position or two if they really do have the pace today. But it does depend on just after the start where they are in the pack. It does depend on that. I think the Toro Rosso car is good enough to finish at the front of the midfield pack, but again, it does depend on how the start goes and where they find themselves in the pack. But it should be a double points finish for Toro Rosso, and I think if they were to finish, say, 8th and 9th with both cars, I think that would be good for them. I think they'd come away from that thinking, you know, that's been a good day for us. So if they can do that, then great. As it has been a decent start to the season for Toro Rosso. Next up, Racing Point. Well, if it doesn't rain, they won't finish in the points. I think it's pretty simple. Their car is the worst in the midfield by quite a bit. They don't have a chance of points in the dry. They are praying for rain, especially Sergio Perez, as the last time it rained in Monaco, he finished on the podium. So he'll definitely be hoping for that. But yeah, Racing Point, their car it doesn't have any grip. It doesn't have any grip. I think they're honestly at this point, Racing Point, they're, no pun intended, they're waiting to get to Canada, because I think once we get to Canada, Racing Point will be back right in the midfield and might even be near the front of the midfield, because Canada does tend to be a great track for Racing Point. But today, they're going to be probably at best, I don't know, 14th, 15th if there's enough chaos ahead. They're just not really going to do anything, are they, Racing Point, in today's Grand Prix? And finally is Williams now. Normally I'd say, who cares? And, well, who does care? But if we get a 2014 style race where there's a lot of crashes and, you know, pit stops for you know, a multitude of reasons, you never know, Williams could finish in the points. And if you are at the back of the grid, Monaco is the best place for you to get a surprise points finish, because if you do get ahead of certain cars, you can't really be passed. So for Williams, all they need to do, have a good start. If they can get a couple positions off the grid, then, you know, go ahead and do so. But all they really need to do is survive and hope. Survive and hope. Because you never know, at Monaco, they could end up, if there's enough retirements, they could end up getting a car into the points. Not because they're quick enough, but because they are still existing in the Grand Prix. But guys, that is your midfield. And now for the next 5 minutes or so, in the live chat, let me know, what do you think will happen for the midfield teams? For Renault, do you think they're going to be good with Daniel Ricciardo? Do you think Haas are going to be competitive with Kevin Magnussen? Do you think McLaren can get points? Do you think Alfa have a chance of points? Do you think Toro Rosso can get a double points finish? And if there is chaos, can Racing Point or Williams finish in the points? Let me know in the live chat, and I'll make sure to read out your comments in a moment. Let me just have another drink and then I'll get to reading those comments. Right, so let's see what you all have to say about the midfield. And by the way, I've seen a couple of people saying Daniel Ricciardo for a podium. You know what? If there is enough chaos, don't rule out a midfield driver on the podium. This is Monaco. And at Monaco, it's either boring and nothing happens, or we have chaos. That's normally how Monaco is. It's a more boring version of Baku, basically. You're not going to get a middle ground. People wondering what I'm drinking. I'm only drinking water. I'm not drinking any, you know, alcohol or anything like that. I'm just drinking water, guys. Left Hook says Bottas will get a good start. Hopefully for him he does, because his last start in Spain was not good. Duke Gaming, which side is pole position? It's on the right, so it's the inside line down into Saint Devote. And the inside line is the best line into turn 1, and that's why it's there, because if second place started on the inside, it'd actually be better to qualify second or on the right hand side of the grid if pole was on the left. So that's why pole is on the right, because the pole position man should have the best line down into turn 1. That's why you know, pole position exists. Tonka Toy Truck says Daniel really pulled it out after a bad practice. He did. Also Hulkenberg did as well, even though he didn't do as well as Danny Rick. Dennis O'Boyle says, I think Kvyat and Gasly will crash and K-Mag will finish 5th and top of the midfield. Okay. Reverend Rashim says Alfa Romeo will get points. Again, they have an outside chance of doing that. I'll be honest, I'm kind of disappointed for Alfa how the last couple races have gone, because I feel as though they could have got more out of what they've had. but they just haven't either had the luck or they haven't put it all together in one smooth transaction, I guess. But like for example, Baku, they qualified, was it P8 and P9? It was disappointing that they couldn't start up there, because I think they would have had a strong points finish and they probably would have been P5, if not P4 in the constructors right now. So I do feel a bit sorry for Alfa, and I think after Monaco, I think once we get to Canada, where Alfa will be good, they're definitely going to have a good weekend in Canada, because their car will suit that track. I think once we get to Canada, they're going to kind of, I don't know, restart and really get back to where they were in the first 4 races, because the last couple, they just haven't really, you know, shown us anything that special. When the start of the season, in the first 4 races, I thought they were probably the best midfield team in terms of consistency and getting the best out of their car. Right, let me find a couple more comments, and then I'm going to move on to the tyre situation, because I know you guys are very interested in that. Can Leclerc pull off a Mad Max from 2018? He came up the field quite a bit. He can, but again, as I said earlier, Max was in the best car on the grid that day, so he couldn't have asked for any more, could Max Verstappen, in terms of having a good enough car to come through the field. For Charles Leclerc, it's going to be tougher, because again, he doesn't have the best car on the grid at this weekend's race. He has the 3rd best car. So again, it will be tough, and I think if he does finish in the points, he'll do well to do so. He really will. He really, really will. Jax says, I'd love to see McLaren do well. I think, yeah, that it would be nice to see McLaren do well. And I think, again, if they were to finish in the points, I think they'd be happy with that. If they can make progress from their grid position, that'd be great for them. Because they look as though they're gathering an even stronger stronghold on P4 in the Constructors' Championship. Hello to Ronan Brady, who says, what a ridiculous strategy mistake for Ferrari yesterday. Absolutely. Absolutely. Right, let me find a final comment, and then I'll get on to the tyre situation. Peter King asks, who do you think is most stupid and useless, Vettel, Ferrari, or Leclerc? This season, you'd have to say Ferrari. I mean, the drivers at times have done the best they could have done, but at times they also haven't. The drivers have been, for me, a bit too inconsistent. For example, look at yesterday. Sebastian Vettel was either just about getting away with hitting the wall or hitting the wall. So I think you have to say Ferrari. The drivers could definitely improve a bit, but the team is the one that needs to improve the most, because they are costing their drivers more than the drivers are costing the team. So it's really mostly the team to blame. I'd say 50% the team, and then 25% Vettel, 25% Leclerc. I think that's how the share of blame should work within that team. But with 25 minutes to go until the race, let's now get into the tyre situation. Now, in terms of the pit strategy, the quickest strategy for the Grand Prix is a one-stop, either going from soft to hard or soft to medium. If you're going to go soft to medium, then you're probably going to have to go a bit longer on the soft than you would have wanted to. But yeah, soft to hard or soft to medium is what is most likely going to happen for most of the teams out there. But some drivers out there do have some interesting strategies and some good tyres to play with. For example, Charles Leclerc has 4 sets of the soft tyres, of course, because he didn't get through to Q2 and Q3. What I would do with Leclerc if I was Ferrari is put him on a set of mediums to start, and then go as long as possible and do a massive overcut, and then put him on the soft tyres at the end, and then you can go after more drivers. Or if that overcut doesn't work, put him on the soft tyres still, and then go for it. So that's what I would do if I was Ferrari, and I think that would work. I think starting on the mediums and then finishing on the soft tyres would work for them, because they've got to do that overcut and try something. And then most of the drivers only have, one new set of soft tyres if they, qualified outside the top 10. Perez and Stroll, you can see, have plenty of new tyres. But it's not as interesting as other races, for sure. Tyres are not that critical, or not really critical at all around this track. Basically, as long as you do a one stop and you don't lose position doing so, it doesn't really matter how you do it. Whether you start on medium, go to hard, or start on hard, go to medium, or start on hard, go to soft, or whatever. It doesn't really matter how you get to that one stop strategy, but as long as you get to that and you don't lose out, then nothing else really matters. But the only interesting thing to look at in terms of tyres, for me, definitely is Charles Leclerc. For me, he has to start on a set of medium tyres that can be aggressive at the end if either he has overcut people and then he can go after more cars, or if he hasn't overcut them, then he can put the soft tyres on and go for them with overtakes possibly on track. But I think I'm just going to have a quick drink again, and then we are going to go on to, guys, the predictions for the Monaco Grand Prix. I'll bring Nib in probably a couple minutes' time. But don't forget to subscribe, by the way, bottom right of the screen, or click on my channel name, go to the homepage and subscribe, and hit the notifications bell. Also, don't forget to the like button, as we will be doing watch-alongs, of course, every race this season. But I'll quickly have a drink, and then we'll go on to the predictions as well. Don't forget to put yours in the live chat. Right. Now, let's get into my top 3 and what I think will happen in today's 2019 Monaco Grand Prix. So, for the race win, I am going with Lewis Hamilton, because he is very good around this track, of course. He hasn't had a ton of wins around this track, but he has always been quick here. But also, his car is super, super quick, and I think to deny him a race victory is going to be too much to ask. I honestly think that. I don't think Valtteri Bottas can keep up long enough. I don't think Max Verstappen can keep up long enough, honestly, in the Red Bull. I just think Lewis Hamilton will have enough from himself and the car to get the win. If he does get the win, by the way, it will be his 3rd race victory in Monaco. He won, of course, in 2008 and 2016, both in the wet. So maybe if it rains today, that's a clear omen that Lewis is going to win. And also, Mercedes are going for their 4th win in Monaco since 2013. They've won here in 2013, 2014, and 2015 and 2016. So I've got that wrong. They're actually going for their 5th win. Sorry about that. So they're going for their 5th win in Monaco in or since 2013, and it would be their 1st win in Monaco since 2016. In 2nd place, I'm going for Valtteri Bottas. I think at the start, what's likely to happen is he will lose out to Hamilton at the start, slip into P2, and then he is likely to just sit in P2 and slowly but surely pull away from Max Verstappen, I think, in the Red Bull, and he will secure a comfortable enough P2. It's really, for Bottas, the only way, again, he can win is if he beats Hamilton down to turn 1. If he doesn't, then I think P2 is what will occur for him. But if he does win, it'll be his 1st ever win in Monaco. And again, as I just said, Mercedes are looking to get their 1st win in Monaco since 2016, where Lewis Hamilton won in the wet from Daniel Ricciardo. And then in 3rd place, I'm going to go for Max Verstappen, the same as qualifying. Max, I think I think in the first stint he'll keep up, but then after that I think he'll start to slowly but surely drop away from Hamilton and Bottas and secure a comfortable P3. But he is, if he does get a podium, he is going to get his first ever podium in Monaco, which is a surprise that he hasn't had a podium in Monaco, but there you go. And Red Bull are looking for their 5th win in Monaco. They won here in 2010, 2011, 2012, and 2018 last year. So this will be the 5th win if they do somehow pull off the win today. But with about 19 minutes to go into the race, I'm now going to bring in Nib so he can give his predictions for the Monaco Grand Prix. Nib, how you doing, mate? Are you looking forward to the race? And yeah, what do you think is going to happen for the top 3?
Yes, I'm doing very well, and I am excited for this Monaco Grand Prix, where we will then ultimately probably be let down by a pretty boring Grand Prix. But nonetheless, let's move on to my predictions for this Monaco Grand Prix. Winning the race, I think, quite comfortably will be Lewis Hamilton, especially if there is any rain involved in this race. For P2, I am going to go for Max Verstappen. If there is any rain, let's say, I think he will get past Valtteri Bottas. So let's see if there is any rain around, which I don't think there is. So we're being a bit hopeful there, but I think that Max might just snag P2 today. And then in 3rd place, I think you can only go with Valtteri Bottas. I don't think anyone else will really be able to get near those top 3 drivers. So I think it will certainly be those 3 drivers finishing in the top 3. So those are my predictions for the Grand Prix, and hopefully we have a bit more of an exciting one than the past couple of years.
Yeah, hopefully we do. Now, everyone, right now, in the live chat, for the next 15 minutes or so, let us know what you think will happen. Who do you think will win? Who do you think will finish in 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th? Let us know in the live chat, and I'll read out as many predictions as I can before the start of the Grand Prix. By the way, I just want to let you guys know, I am going to try and do the lap count of myself manually today. So it might not be up to date the entire time, but I will try my best to update it as many times as possible. But if I can't, then I'm probably just going to get rid of it and put, I don't know, the race has started in the top left. But the countdown and all that stuff works. But I am probably going to have a lap counter system fully working in a much smoother way by the time we get to Canada. So, yeah, just want to let you guys know about that. But now, let's now get into what you guys think will happen. Let me get to the first prediction in the chat, and then I'll get reading them. So, right. So Jax says Lewis 1st, Bottas 2nd, Magnussen in 3rd. That's interesting. JB Ericsson will win. Right, let me find the next one. Joaquin Moller says Lewis 1st, Bottas 2nd, Magnussen 3rd. Right, what's the next one? Astro Stevo going for the fun prediction of Verstappen 1st, Ricciardo 2nd, and Kimi 3rd. Let me find the next one here. Keep your predictions coming, guys. Lily Martin, Verstappen to win from Hamilton 2nd, Vettel 3rd. And hold on, let me find the next one. Sure, there's plenty coming through now. Tonka Toy Truck says Bottas to win from Hamilton 2nd, Max Verstappen in 3rd. Razor says Hamilton to win from Bottas 2nd, Verstappen 3rd, Vettel 4th, Magnussen 5th, Ricciardo 6th, Gasly 7th, and Leclerc 8th. Julio Castro says Hamilton to win from Vettel 2nd, Magnussen 3rd. Another Magnussen 3rd there. Jim Plus X says Hamilton to win from Bottas 2nd, Max Verstappen in third. Harry Belcher says Hamilton, Bottas, Vettel and Leclerc will crash in his opinion. Martin Colding thinks Hamilton, Bottas, Verstappen and Vettel will all crash. Kafir says Hamilton to win from Bottas second, Vettel third, Magnussen fourth and Verstappen to crash. Jungle Brother thinks it will rain, so Lewis to win from Leclerc and Ricciardo on the podium. Hamilton, Bottas, Max I just saw there scrolling past. Right, let me find another one here. Osman, Hamilton from Bottas, Verstappen third. Let me, by the way, switch onto a different picture. There you go. That's of Lewis Hamilton. Michael Arvin says Ferrari will not score any points. I just want to ask you, Nib, with Gasly and Leclerc, where do you think they're going to end up? For Gasly, I think he'll struggle to get top 5, and I honestly think Leclerc will struggle to finish the points. Do you agree, or do you think those drivers can get back to where they should be on the grid?
I agree with Pierre Gasly. I don't think he'll move up too much in the field. He generally struggles to overtake cars when he's in traffic. We've seen that at Melbourne, and it ain't going to be any easier at Monaco. But with Charles Leclerc, I think he will be able to move up positions and get some points, mainly because of how good that Ferrari is in a straight line, that they'll be able to power past a couple of cars down the pitch straight. Even though it's very small, just Ferrari have such an advantage with the DRS and then their engine power that I think he'll be able to get his way into the points. Or, of course, they could do a lovely overcut, which they showed everyone how to perform perfectly in the on Thursday or Friday to the media. So watch out for Ferrari's overcut. I'm sure it's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be great. I'm sure it will. Knowing them, they'll try the overcut and end up further back than they started in the pack. Knowing them, yeah, I see a point with Leclerc, but I'm not. It depends on how important you think that extra power Ferrari have. Depends how important you think it will be. I don't think it will be that important today, because I don't think they have exactly enough grip to, power out of a corner and immediately power past. And I think Leclerc is likely to get past people through the overcut or undercut rather than on track. I don't think he'll be passing people down into the Nouvelle Chicane or anything like that. But let's hope he can. Right, let me move on to this picture of Charles Leclerc. Let me quickly read out some more predictions from people in the chat. Memek, Kubica, Norris, Stroll. Floyd says Bottas will get P3. Says Wiz, Hamilton, Bottas, Verstappen, Magnussen, Leclerc, Vettel will be in the wall. I wouldn't be surprised if Vettel crashed, because, he hit the wall twice in about, 20 minutes of track action in qualifying? So, wouldn't be surprised if Sebastian crashed out. He didn't exactly look comfortable in qualifying. Might be a bit hard to hold on to in the race. Leah Gore, Lewis from Max second, Bottas third. Peter King says Lewis from Mad Max and then Wingman. James Donovan says Danny Rick P5. This will awaken him. Peter Keith says Hamilton to win from Verstappen second. Alan Ford says Leclerc to win. Let me find a couple more if I can. I think I read out Michael Arvin's one. I think I have. Uncle Peter, Hamilton, Verstappen, Bottas is his prediction. And yeah, I think that's as much as I've done so far. Let me see if I missed any. And let me read out a couple extra comments, not just predictions. Raghav Gupta says Max was able to gain 11 places last year, so Leclerc should manage to get 5 places At least you'd hope so. You'd hope Charles can at least get into the points. I think that's pretty much his goal. Get into the points. That's all that matters from where he's starting. Robert Hull says, I think all depends on the first corner. As seen in previous races, any team has to have something outstanding to beat Mercedes. I think it'll be Lewis if everything goes to plan, with Bottas in second. Crystal Racing says Hamilton from Bottas, Verstappen third. Floyd says Leclerc will finish either P6 or P5. Okay. ML Stud says Hamilton, Verstappen, Bottas, Vettel, Gasly is his prediction. Let me see. I think did I miss one? No, I want to read this comment out though. From Ergen, who says, I think they will put hard tyres on Leclerc and go for a 0 pit stop strategy. Of course they can't do that, but they could put the hard tyres on and go as long as possible and just go until lap 60 or 70, and then at the end put a set of soft tyres on and go for the fastest lap. They could do that. Might work out. I mean, that might allow the overcut to work, but we'll have to see. If you could do the race without pitting, I think if you put on the hard tyre, you would get to the end quite comfortably. I think you'd get to the end comfortably if you put the medium tyres on at the start as well. I think that's just the way the tyres are. Here is a nice looking shot of the Red Bull. And just seeing the cars getting ready with what? 8 minutes to go until, it says until the race, but really that's until the formation lap. I just want to, though, quickly show a picture of the drivers paying respect to Niki Lauda, because, of course, Niki earlier this week passed away. Still very, very sad, and hopefully, I know people might not like me, but I kind of hope Mercedes win for Niki Lauda, because he really did help build that team into the machine they are. He convinced Lewis Hamilton to join them, and I think Lewis said, I think you told me this, Niv, didn't you, that Lewis said if Niki didn't convince me or talk to me about coming to Mercedes, I'd still be a one-time world champion. So it's clear that he was an integral part of that team, and I'm going to quickly, if I can, post a picture of their tribute. Let me try and get it up a minute. By the way, let me know, guys, if the stream at all starts to lag, because it might be slight lag on my side, I don't know. But let me just put this on screen so you guys can pay your respects. Here we go. And there you go. That's the picture. Let me just put it below the timer. The drivers, with of course the caps, paying their respects. And it's great to see that. Everyone paying their respects to one of the greatest drivers in Formula One history, without a doubt. There is no doubt about that whatsoever. But now we have 6 minutes to go until the formation lap, and then probably about 8 minutes until the lights out and start of the Grand Prix. A couple of people saying lag is bad. On my side, it's fine now. It was lagging slightly, so let me know if it's bad at all. But I did have slight lag a minute ago, but it's all fine now. But yeah, let's as we're now 5.5 minutes to go, let's now get ready for this Grand Prix. I am going to quickly get the running order going so you guys can see what the grid will be for this Grand Prix, if it will allow me to do it. I'm having a bit of some issues on my end for some reason. Whilst I try to sort out these issues. Nib, do you mind just quickly reading out some comments?
Yes, indeed. Astro Stevo saying Ferrari probably hoping they can win it for Nicky too. Ties to a number of teams. Ferrari, McLaren, Brabham, BRM even. Indeed, indeed. Everyone is pressing F to pay respects. I'm not too sure, but I've seen a couple of people saying screen has frozen, so that is not good. Trotter's saying 3-time world champ. What a man Nicky Lauda was. Of course, a giant of this sport. I'm just trying to look for some more comments. But just touching on your point before, indeed, yes, Hamilton did say that if he hadn't had that phone call with Nicky Lauda, he would be still a one-time world champion. So Nicky Lauda's been so important in Lewis Hamilton's career, so important in so many people's career, and an absolute legend of the sport. And hopefully today, Nicky will be happy with the result of the race. The Gold Nuggets say you can't rule out Ricciardo. Indeed, you can't. I mean, I don't think he's going to get a podium or anything, but I think P5 is probably the maximum he can get today if all the cars ahead of him stay in the race. That is for sure. Astro Stevo saying 25-time winner in an era with a lot fewer races too. Indeed, I see a lot of people just not giving drivers enough respect and not realizing that there were a lot less races back in those days. So that's why so many of the old drivers don't have as many wins as, say, Hamilton or Vettel. So it is good to when people point that out. Hyperwolf saying, even though I liked James Hunt better, Nicky was unbelievable. Indeed, if you didn't respect Nicky Lauda or even like him, then at least on a sporting level, then I don't really know what you were thinking on that. We've got Friction saying it's going to be tough getting into the top 10 for Leclerc. I think it will be difficult, but I think that the Ferrari will just be a little bit too good. It hasn't been absolutely awful around here this weekend, to be fair. I thought it'd be a lot worse. So I still think that Leclerc will manage to get some points. Floyd is saying Red Bull is really good. I wouldn't say they're really good. I mean, they're better than Ferrari this weekend, but they're not super, super good, our Red Bull. Of course, they were a lot better last year at Monaco, but I think that's mainly due to the fact that Mercedes' car this year is so much better.
Right, I'll take over now. Thanks for doing that. I was just making sure the running order and everything was working, but it was a slight mistake on my end. But I think if there's any lag issues, it's probably on the people's end who's watching, because mine has now fixed itself. It was lagging for a couple minutes, or a couple seconds rather. So it's fine now on my end. So if it is lagging, just restart the refresh the link and it should be working. But we do have 90 seconds to go until the formation lap of the 2019 Monaco Grand Prix. Charles Leclerc is on the tyres that I said he should be on for this Grand Prix, the mediums. So is Hulkenberg, Norris, Grosjean and Raikkonen on soft tyres. So is Giovinazzi. And then you've got Leclerc, Perez, Stroll mediums. Russell and Kubica as well, mediums. And then, of course, the top 10 on soft tyres, which they qualified on. So there you go. Those are the tyres. I think starting on a set of medium tyres indicates that they are going to try, those drivers that are doing it, they're going to try the overcut. Because, again, even if you have a lot older tyres, if you can get that clean air rather than the other driver you're trying to overcut, then it can work out for you, because clean air at Monaco is so vitally important. You can gain so much time with clean air at Monaco. But I think now I'm going to quickly get rid of the timer. And I'm going to be honest, I'm not going to do the lap counter because two reasons. One, I'm actually got a system ready that I'm going to use in Canada that will make sure the lap counter is easy to use and won't mess up. But also, we are lagging a bit. And I don't want to overdo everything on my side with all my operations. So I won't put races started. I'll put formation lap as started. As the formation lap is underway. Yeah, I won't do the lap counter today, but I will definitely get it for Canada. I know what I'm going to do for Canada in terms of the lap counter and what system I will use, but yeah, I just can't use it today because I haven't had enough time to be able to work it out. As yet, we are now on the formation lap. So, let's see what happens in a couple minutes' time. By the way, thanks to everyone watching. We have about 700 people watching right now in the live chat. Great to see you all here. As I just take a swig of my water. Here we go. As we've now got the front of the field coming down to the Nouvelle chicane. And we should be getting underway in about a minute's time. So about a minute away from the start of the Grand Prix. As drivers just warming their tyres up. Bit of a gap from Kvyat back to Gasly. So Pierre Gastly giving himself a bit of a gap. Maybe he wants to start a bit quicker than others. As now Lewis Hamilton comes to Rascasse as they are now set to start this Grand Prix. And here they come now. Hamilton, Bottas, Verstappen, Vettel, Magnussen, Ricciardo, Kvyat, Pierre Gasly, Carlos Sainz, Albon, Hulkenberg, Norris, Grosjean, Raikkonen, Giovinazzi. Oh no, Leclerc, then Perez, Stroll, then Giovinazzi, then Russell, Kubica. That is your starting grid for the Monaco Grand Prix, which is about to get underway in about half a minute's time. As now got the final couple cars. That's the new race director of Formula One. So, the race at Monaco is about to get underway. This is the one they all want to win. But who will win the Monaco Grand Prix of 2019? Let's see. We've got now 3 lights, 4 lights and 5 lights at Monaco. And it's lights out and away we go. Lewis Hamilton has got a great start from the pack. Max Verstappen up the inside of Valtteri Bottas, but Bottas goes round the outside. Ricciardo's up to P5. Ricciardo. Daniel Ricciardo's up to P5, I think. Yes, he is. Ricciardo ahead of Magnussen. Gasly is past Kvyat. So you've got Hamilton from Bottas, Verstappen, then Vettel, Ricciardo, Magnussen, Gasly. And then after that, I think it is Danny Kvyat. We're not seeing the order at the moment. So yeah, it's Gasly, then it's a McLaren, I think, of Sainz, then the 2 Toro Rossos, then Hulkenberg, Grosjean, Norris.
All Leclerc trying to go around the outside. There, that's risky.
Very risky, and it 2 Alfa Romeos there racing back there with the Williamses. Alfa have had a terrible start. But yeah, it's Hamilton leading. Leclerc almost went right round the outside of, I think, who was
Lando Norris.
Yeah, Lando Norris in the McLaren. That would have been a spectacular move if he had pulled that off. But we are now coming to the end of the first lap. Let me quickly post a different picture for you guys. There you go. Hold on a minute. Let me just post it further down.
Tell you what, Max Verstappen did get a very good start. Nearly was up the inside of Valtteri Bottas, but he didn't want to risk any contact into turn 1. It did Max Verstappen, as we've pretty much got the same running order. Well, certainly for the top 4. But Daniel Ricciardo, what a move around the outside of Kevin Magnussen at turn 1, if you don't mind. But it was a very odd decision to go to Toto Wolff immediately on the TV feed, even as we're like on the beginning of the first lap. Very weird indeed. But there you go. By the way, Bottas not exactly being dropped by Lewis Hamilton. He's still about 9/10 of a second behind. Gasly then P7. Carlos Sainz P8. So Kvyat had a poor start, losing 2 positions off the line. And they got Albon 10th, Hulkenberg 11th. Leclerc has passed Norris at the hairpin. So Leclerc already up to 13th. Grosjean is P12.
And then in P13 is the Monegasque Charles Leclerc. And then P14, here's a replay down the inside. And I think Norris knew he did not have the grip to be able to hold off Charles Leclerc. So Norris is P14. And then in P15 is Lance Stroll, as Lewis Hamilton does a fastest lap of 1:17.1. So Stroll is in 15th. 16th is Perez. 17th is Kimi Raikkonen. So terrible start for Kimi. He's lost 3 positions at the start. Kubica has had a great start, up to 18th. 19th is Antonio Giovinazzi. And then last of all is not Robert Kubica, is George Russell in the Williams. So the current running order, running along the bottom of your screen, is a live order at Monaco with we're now on lap 3 out of 78. I'll quickly post a picture of when it was lights out. Hamilton leading by about a second from Bottas. But yeah, we're going to see a replay. I'll let you take us through this, Nib.
Once again, nice little move by Leclerc down the inside of the hairpin. Of course, he didn't have a driver defending the inside of a hairpin like we've seen in F2 yesterday, but now Leclerc is closing up to the back of Romain Grosjean through to back, and he'll be looking to get past that Haas as soon as he possibly can. Leclerc looking very quicker at the start of this race as Hamilton sets another fastest lap of the Grand Prix, a 1:16.7. Leclerc thinking about a move up the inside of Raskas, but certainly thinks better of it. That would have been a bit of a silly move too far back and would have been very similar of what we've already seen this weekend at this Grand Prix. But we're having some more race control. No investigation needed for a couple of drivers who cut the inside of turn 1 to avoid some incidences. So no penalties at the moment, but we're just staying here with Leclerc coming through Casino Square now down towards Mirabeau. But Ricciardo already 7 seconds off the pace of Sebastian Vettel. I think the race is really showing that how much of an advantage these top 3 teams have over. Now we're going to go back to the race start. And as you can see, very good start there for Lewis Hamilton, but a brilliant start by Max Verstappen. Second phase of his launch was much, much better than Valtteri Bottas. Was a little bit later on the brakes, but then just was squeezed out on the inside curb there. As you can see, I think that was Giovinazzi cutting the inside, and that is how he's fallen back behind Robert Kubica. And there you go, Ricciardo around the outside there. Oh, and that was Leclerc also cut the inside of turn 1. But now we're going on board of Max Verstappen here at turn 1. As you can see, inside line, but just Bottas had a bit more overspeed around the outside. And that is why we've got, once again, at the moment, a Mercedes 1-2 and Valtteri Bottas not too far behind Lewis Hamilton, 1.3 seconds, as Bottas set the fastest lap of that race on that previous lap by about 0.02 of a second. So pretty close between the drivers at the front.
Absolutely. And Max Verstappen is holding on for now. He's about 1.5 seconds back. That's good enough for now. Charles Leclerc sliding his Ferrari through Mirabeau and is very close to Romain Grosjean. Daniel Ricciardo, by the way, already 10 seconds, not off the lead. He's 10 seconds behind Sebastian Vettel. That, again, as Nib said, shows the difference in race pace between the top teams and the midfield. So the midfield will be lapped in this race. Charles Leclerc down the inside. Oh, he had a look. He had a look, but it was not. The door was not wide enough open for him to make the move. But if he was maybe a couple tenths closer, he probably would have got the move down the inside. Now, if this was a normal track, Grosjean would probably, not deliberately, but would probably ease off and let Leclerc through. Leclerc maybe down the inside of the Raskas. If this was at a normal track, Grosjean would probably let Leclerc go. But because this is Monaco, you don't let drivers through here. Because if you stay ahead, you never know. You could end up getting towards the front of the midfield or even higher than that, as Leclerc is now really homing in on Romain Grosjean, and Grosjean now falling back from Hulkenberg. And I think the medium tyres, you have to say, are really working well as Leclerc closes up at the hairpin. Just seeing there the 2 racing points, and Kimi Räikkönen very close on track. Also Magnussen just about within DRS of Daniel Ricciardo. Kvyat and Albon within DRS of Sainz, so is Hulkenberg. But by the way, we are currently on lap 6 out of 78. Yellow flag in sector 1. What is that for? It's green now. Someone must have gone down in an escape road or something. But we are on lap 6, soon to be lap 7 out of 78. Hamilton is leading by 1.2 from Valtteri Bottas, as Leclerc giving it everything, closing up again down the inside. I think he's only having a look to try and scare Roman wide, but Roman will not be scared off the track, as he will now have to wait. I'm just looking though. There is a train starting to form behind Carlos Sainz. Carlos Sainz has now fallen over a second behind Gasly, only just about, and is now got a train of cars of Kvyat, Albon, Hulkenberg, Grosjean, and Leclerc right behind him. Also, Norris has a bit of a train of Stroll, Perez, Raikkonen behind him. So, a couple trains already at Monaco. As Leclerc, can he be close enough here? No, I don't think he is close enough. I don't think Charles is close enough, but will he go for the dive anyway? Down the inside of the Nouveau chicane. No, has a look. Roman keeps ahead for now.
Looks like the best place that Leclerc's going to get close enough is through Rascasse. The Ferrari looks so much quicker, as we've just seen from that camera through this part. Look how close he is through the chicane. He just needs to get a good exit out of that chicane to go up the inside. And here he goes, up the inside of Romain Grosjean. A brilliant move there by Charles Leclerc. Up the inside of Rascasse, and he is now up into P12 past Romain Grosjean.
Great move by Charles Leclerc, right down the inside of the Rascasse. He feigned kind of around the outside of Grosjean, then pulled straight to the inside. Great move. Grosjean, I think, was trying to fight him, but Charles put it down the inside and forced Roman to go wide. By the way, you might have seen Sebastian Vettel just did the fastest lap of the Grand Prix in the Ferrari. Have Ferrari found some pace? Who knows? But Daniel Ricciardo, by the way, is 18.5 seconds behind Vettel after 8 laps. That is unbelievable.
24 seconds off the lead.
That's unbelievably... that's unbelievable. The pace difference between the leader and P5, or the leader and the midfield. But there you go. As Charles Leclerc now is only half a second behind Hulkenberg, and Hulkenberg will be easier to pass because the Renault, of course, in a straight line is slow. So if he does get a run into... he's going to do it again. Oh, he's crashed. He's crashed. He's got going again. He clipped the inside barrier, and here comes Norris round the outside. And Stroll will now get a run on Norris, will he? No, he won't. Perez might get a run on Stroll. Leclerc, though, bit too aggressive. Hulkenberg right to fight it, because Leclerc, I don't think, got his whole car through there. Here we go.
Oh, I think he did. He did.
I think Hulkenberg gave him enough space, though. I think Leclerc just made contact with him. And I think Leclerc also might have clipped the inside barrier. Let's see.
Yeah, I think he has there.
Yeah, his side pod, I think, clipped the barrier.
He's got a puncture.
Puncture.
Right puncture for Charles Leclerc.
Puncture for Leclerc. Yeah, his right rear is flat. What a disaster this Grand Prix, this weekend has been for Leclerc. What absolute disaster. I hope no one goes too quick through that tunnel, because passing a car who's got a puncture through the tunnel is not exactly a safe thing to do as F1 goes past. I will update the order in just a moment. I just want to put a picture on the screen of Leclerc.
Oh, as the tyres completely delaminated. He's gone too quick. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes into one of the walls here. Or...
he might do.
His floor's going to be completely destroyed. They're probably just going to retire him from this race. Look at that floor all over the track now.
This might be a safety car as well. This might be a safety car. Hulkenberg, by the way, is pitted, so he might have damage as well. But yeah, I think that might be a safety car because there's bits of Ferrari floor around the track. This is very Gilles Villeneuve-esque from Leclerc coming back into the pits. That tyre is completely destroyed. But let me quickly...
the floor on both sides completely destroyed.
And he's going out again. Red Bull coming out for a pit stop as Grosjean...
a safety car or a virtual safety car?
Possibly. Grosjean is up to P12. Leclerc has been lapped already by Hamilton, Bottas, Verstappen, and soon to be, there you go, his teammate Sebastian Vettel was about to lap him as well. But Norris is currently P12, and they got Stroll up to 13th, and then Perez 14th. You have to say, yeah, he's trying, is Leclerc, to get back up the field, but I think there... Safety car in Monaco. Safety cars very, very common at Monaco, and we have one, and I think the teams are now going to pit. They should pit, but it's hold on. So Giovinazzi's 17th and 18th. Oh no, hold on a minute. Then it's Russell, then Hulkenberg, then Leclerc, I believe. But yeah, safety car out at Monaco on lap 11, I think it is, or lap 11 of the Monaco Grand Prix. So that running order running along the bottom of your screen is the live order at Monaco as Charles Leclerc and his damaged floor that, well, he really destroyed. As here we go. So Lewis Hamilton is going to come in. Look at Bottas. He's holding up Verstappen and Vettel to give himself room to come in and pit as well. And Hamilton pits, goes out on the medium, and here comes Bottas. And Vettel will put on the hard compound tyre. Be interesting to see who comes out ahead in that little pit stop battle.
Oh!
Verstappen's ahead.
There was contact.
Verstappen,
Contact, though, in the pit lane.
Verstappen is ahead of Bottas. There you go. Verstappen gets up to second. And look how close Valtteri is to the back of him. But I think there was slight contact.
Debris off the Red Bull.
There was slight contact, I think, between the two cars. Here's a replay, or not a replay, a picture of Leclerc down the inside of Grosjean. They're sweeping up the damage there of Leclerc's flailing tyre. So I'll update the order in just a moment as Ricciardo and Magnussen have just pitted. Yep, Ricciardo and Magnussen are in the pits. And here we go. Yeah, there was contact. Left front of Bottas to right rear, but it wasn't massive. There was a contact again here. Yeah, there was. Slight contact again. So, only slight contact, but there you go. Verstappen up to second. I'll update the order in a moment because I've got a picture of how Leclerc got his puncture through contact. And by the way, this is great news for Charles Leclerc because he can now unlap himself, surely, and get back up to the back of the pack and go again. So Leclerc's got out of jail. Maybe that's what his plan was.
I don't think so. He's got.
I'm joking.
More at the rear of the car. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up retiring in this race with just so much downforce lost on that Ferrari. But fantastic job by Red Bull there in the pits to get Max out ahead. I don't think it was an unsafe release. I thought they'd come in as Bottas. Is that Bottas? Bottas
yes, it
pitted.
is. Bottas has damage, so Bottas will drop, I think, to P4 because I think the rest of the pack is too far behind. We'll have to see.
Yeah, should be P4.
We'll see though. But yeah, it should be P4. So Bottas now down to P4. It's getting even worse today for Valtteri Bottas. So that promotes Sebastian Vettel up to third. So we have 3 different constructors in the top 3. Gasly is 5th. Sainz is 6th. Then you got Kvyat in P7. Albon is in P8. P9 is Romain Grosjean. And P10, Lando Norris. By the way, we're on, was it lap 13, I think, out of 78. And we're under a safety car, just to let you guys know that. So Norris P10, Stroll P11. And then Kimi Raikkonen is P12. And then Ricciardo is 13th and Magnussen is 14th. The reason they're there, not P5 and P6, is because they pitted under the safety car. Now, I think they might regret that because now they're going to be held up by the other cars that are now going to try and go long. So that might help out Gasly in his effort to jump the rest of the midfield. Kubica is 15th in the Williams, ahead of Giovinazzi. Perez also pitted, so he is 17th. Hulkenberg is in P18, and then P19 is Russell, who also pitted under the safety car, and then 20th is Leclerc. So that is the current order at Monaco, as we are under a safety car. I don't think we'll be under a safety car for much longer, though. I think we'll be under a safety car, well, probably to the end of this lap, to be honest. But I'll quickly post a picture of Leclerc's puncture and his shredded, well, kind of shredded floor. Let me just quickly get that up for you guys. Safety, yep, safety car in at the end of this lap. So we'll be underway very soon. Very, very soon. Be interesting to see if Valtteri Bottas has enough speed to get close right back up to the back of Vettel and Verstappen. That's Leclerc's puncture there. Safety car then in at the end of this lap. So the order will be Hamilton, Verstappen, Vettel, Bottas, Gasly, Sainz, Kvyat, Albon, Grosjean, Norris, Stroll, Raikkonen, Ricciardo, Magnussen, Kubica, Giovinazzi, Perez, Hulkenberg, Russell, and Leclerc. Leclerc, by the way, I believe has unlapped himself, so he will get back to the back of the pack. If we look at the back there, but he's cut away. So here we go.
He is right behind Russell.
Is he at the back or is he in the midfield?
Yeah, he is.
Right, he's at the back. Good.
He's behind Russell.
So here we go. Lewis Hamilton lets it go and gets going again. And, oh no, he let it go and then continued to warm his tyres up again. So now he'll get going, surely. Slides it slightly out of the final corner. And now, green flag racing. We're back underway on lap 15 out of 78. Lewis Hamilton leads from Max Verstappen second. Sebastian Vettel is third. Then it's Bottas in fourth. Gasly fifth. Carlos Sainz in P6. Kvyat 7th. Albon 8th. Grosjean 9th. Norris 10th. Then it's Stroll, Raikkonen, Ricciardo, Magnussen, Kubica, Giovinazzi, Perez, Hulkenberg, Russell, and Leclerc. I thought I just saw some... Oh, did you see that? Sebastian Vettel getting the rear in an absolute state there. And Bottas is going to be all over the back of him now. And he's on the hard compound tyre. And I think Valtteri Bottas is as well.
Yes.
Yeah, they are. They're both on the hard, so they are going to struggle for grip. Bottas, though, looks pretty close to Vettel. Yeah, he is. Maybe not close enough to go for a move, but he's close. And he will be putting him under pressure now, most likely for the rest of the Grand Prix. By the way, interesting. Lewis Hamilton is on mediums. The 3 cars behind are on hard tyres. So if tyre wear becomes an issue, Lewis will struggle with that at the end. Because I expect all the teams that have pitted to go to the end. Yellow flag in Sector 2, but that's now green flag for some reason. But the order has remained the same after the safety car has come in. Now lap 16 out of 78. Yellow flag in Sector 3. I hope it's not Charles Leclerc. Oh no, it's traffic jam at the Rascasse. Oh, Right, so Giovinazzi and Kubica, I guarantee, have had a crash, and now they're blocking the track. Let's hope they haven't stalled. No, they... Oh, this is absolutely hilarious. Like, I don't even know what happened there. Right, so here we go. Yeah, so Giovinazzi down the inside of Kubica, that's completely his fault. And then traffic jam at the Raskas. I don't think I've ever seen that before. This Monaco Grand Prix has been great. I don't know what people are on about.
Except for F2.
Yeah, F2. That was funny as well. But so that's cost those drivers plenty of time. So Perez is up to P15 with that. And then Hulkenberg is 16th. By the way, Giovinazzi probably will get a penalty for that because that was definitely his fault. He did not have his car anywhere near enough alongside to actually get that move done. And here's a replay. Oh, Vettel almost got released straight into... There you go. So Verstappen... It made contact twice with Bottas. And there you go again. So, yeah, there you go. But 17th is Russell. I feel sorry for Kubica, honestly, because... And yet, under investigation. Oh, Verstappen and Bottas. Oh, that might be... That's good. I think that might be a penalty. That might be a penalty. An unsafe release. An unsafe release, possibly, for Max Verstappen. But, and here comes Leclerc. I think he's coming in to retire, surely.
Looks like they've got some tyres ready. Unless they're just doing a pit stop practice.
Soft tyres are going on. Oh, did they get that tyre on right? He tried to put the gun back on again for some reason. So there you go. Kubica is 18th, and then you've got Giovinazzi 19th, and Leclerc is basically having a test day at the back of the grid. So yeah, there you go. By the way, Max Verstappen holding on to Hamilton. The hard tyres are looking very good right now. Very good. And Gasly as well hanging on. Only a second behind Bottas.
I think everyone is going significantly slower because at the start of the race, the drivers were in the 16s and now they're in the low 1 minute 19. So everyone is significantly slower. Of course, they are on harder tyres, but I think they're struggling a little bit with getting their tyres up to temperature.
And also, another thing that's different is the midfield is not losing lots of time to the top teams. And I think that's, as you said, I think that's because the top 4 or 5, and with Carlos Sainz, they're trying to eke out the life of their tyres. Here is a picture, by the way, of Bottas and Verstappen making contact in the pit lane. Could be a penalty for Verstappen. I want to see a replay. Another replay to really see if it was or not. But there you go. So Hamilton from Verstappen, Vettel, Bottas, Gasly, Sainz. The field looks very, very close at the moment. Until you get to say Hulkenberg and Leclerc in again. Yeah, this is for him to retire, surely. Yeah. That's Charles Leclerc out of the 2019 Monaco Grand Prix. This has to be probably the worst home race for any driver driving for Ferrari I can remember. Qualified P16 and is out after 19 laps of the Monaco Grand Prix. That is unbelievable how bad his weekend has gone. But now we have the top 4 all within a second of each other, which is great to see. And Gasly as well, hanging on in P5. So the top 5, very close. Carlos Sainz is now starting to drop back into the hands of Danny Kvyat. Just trying to see if there's any close gaps. Magnussen is still close to Ricciardo, but Ricciardo is close to Raikkonen, who is close to Stroll. Robert Kubica and Antonio Giovinazzi's crash is under investigation. That'll be a penalty for Giovinazzi, without a doubt. He clearly caused that. But yeah, the closest battle on track right now is Stroll, Raikkonen, Ricciardo, Magnussen, Perez. And to be honest, I would kind of rather see that right now because I don't think the top 4 are going to be racing each other pretty soon. But those midfield drivers look like they're going to be racing a lot sooner. Magnussen's only 0.4 of a second behind Ricciardo at the moment. And now the race is settling down into what you tend to get at Monaco, which is a bit of a lull as F1 is trying to consolidate what they have and eke out the life that they have left in their tyres. So there might be a bit of a dull period, as there is Charles Leclerc looking very disappointed. There might now be a bit of a dull period, but things are still looking very interesting, especially in the midfield, where there are still some very close gaps in there. Again, from Norris down to even Hulkenberg now. There's a massive train, isn't there, Nib? From Norris, look, all the way down to Hulkenberg, and Russell at this rate might even join that.
Well, it's quite incredible. Actually, on the previous lap, George Russell was the quickest car on circuit. He did a 1 minute 17.6, and Norris was doing a 1 minute 20.8. So Lando Norris is really struggling on his medium tyres at the moment, and is falling back massively from Roman Grosjean.
He is. He's look at him. He's losing 0.2 per mini sector. Look at that, 5.5 now. And then it'll go to 5.7 in a minute. Yeah, almost 5.7. Norris is way off the pace. I think we should honestly be seeing that right now. Because, again, look at that train. Russell look at Russell. He's taking loads of time out of that train as well. Lando Norris has no pace whatsoever. His teammate Carlos Sainz, and look, possible spitting of rain possibly coming. Carlos Sainz is doing well. He's only 1.2 off Gasly in 6th place. He is holding up Danny Kvyat slightly, but Lando Norris is losing, 2 seconds a lap to the cars ahead?
And this is really affecting Daniel Ricciardo and Kevin Magnussen's race because, of course, they have pitted, whereas everyone in front of them, except for Bottas, Vettel, and Verstappen and Hamilton, have not pitted. So this is costing them big time here, and they'll be wanting everyone to get past Norris as quickly as possible and even pit. And now the gap is 7 seconds between Grosjean and Norris. What is going on with Lando Norris?
I don't know. It must be tyres. It must be tyres because his teammate, I know it's on a different compound of tyres, but Carlos Sainz is hanging on to Pierre Gastly, as you can see right there at the bottom of the picture. But yeah, Norris is nowhere at the moment. And as I said during the safety car, I said I think Ricciardo and Magnussen are going to come to regret pitting, and I think that will come true because if Norris stays out long enough, Ricciardo and Magnussen will lose a pit stop to Gasly and Sainz eventually, especially if Norris has to start defending and basically driving his rear tyres instead of his, what's ahead. As Max Verstappen is closer to Lewis Hamilton than Vettel is to Verstappen. Bottas only 0.7 behind, very close at the front. This is what we want to see. A close fight between 4 drivers, and 3 of them are in different cars. 2, of course, are in the same car, and then we've got 2 different drivers in different cars. As Verstappen looking pretty good here. Maybe if he doesn't get a penalty. Oh, time penalty, as I say that for Max Verstappen. 5 seconds. I was about to say, maybe if he doesn't get a penalty, he could win here. But he has a 5-second time penalty for an unsafe release. That's not good for Verstappen, because right now that would put him not even down to P4, even down to P6, P7. So he's got to get on with it, it's Max. And maybe now that if he gets told that he has a penalty, maybe now he will start to attack Lewis Hamilton at the front. By the way, I've just seen someone saying put a new picture up. I will in just a moment. I'm actually getting it now. By the way, we are on lap 23 out of 78 So 23 out of 78. The top four still Linus Stern at the front. Norris is still losing lots of time to the cars ahead, but Lance Stroll now is dropping back and holding up people behind. But interestingly, Max Verstappen is not using DRS. You see that? He's not using DRS at all.
I have noticed it through this race that he hasn't been using DRS.
That's well, hopefully that doesn't hurt him later on if someone tries to pass him. But maybe he opened it and there was some kind of issue and they've told him to not open it. But Vettel and Bottas looking very close. Only about half a second separating them. I'm about to post a picture of that traffic jam at the Ras Kass. And here you go. That was the scene down at the Ras Kass. Absolute chaos. But since then, things have calmed down a bit. And the field hasn't, well, the order has not changed since that crash between Giovinazzi and Kubica. As still Linus Stern at the front, Hamilton, Verstappen, Vettel, Bottas. Consistently in this battle, Bottas looks closer to Vettel than Verstappen is to Hamilton or Vettel is to Verstappen or anything like that. Saying that, Max Verstappen now only half a second behind Lewis Hamilton, who I guess, because he's on a softer compound compared to Vettel and Bottas, is just managing the tyres he has as he now comes down into the lows. Great corner. And Max, again, still very, very close behind. I'm seeing
just seen Mercedes report possible chance of rain in 5 minutes.
Yeah, I've just seen that. People in the chat saying that. So, well, if rain comes, get ready. But we'll see. Hopefully it does. And it's still great to see. Look, it's still Linus Stern at the front. Half a second covering Hamilton and Verstappen. Vettel, though, is starting to drop back. Sebastian does have to remain within the DRS to Verstappen, because I think if he falls out of it, I think he might get passed by Bottas eventually. And does he get the DRS? Yes, he does to Sebastian Vettel. That's important. But look at Verstappen now, closing up to Hamilton. He looks to be a couple tenths closer than he was a couple laps ago. Maybe he's been told about the penalty. The skies do look to be getting a bit darker around Monaco as they now come down into the lows again. And I've just thought of this. This will be, at the moment, the first non-1-2 for Mercedes at the moment, as Antonio Giovinazzi has been given a 10-second penalty for causing a collision. And yeah, I agree with that, because not only did he ruin Kubica's race there, but he blocked the track. So yeah, Giovinazzi fully deserving of that penalty. Things were looking promising earlier in the weekend for him, but he's gone and binned it there. But yeah, Verstappen only half a second back. Vettel falling back slowly but surely from Verstappen. As look, Max is over in his DRS now, so must have had, maybe he forgot. That is possible.
Ooh, very close to Hamilton there into turn one.
He was.
Max Verstappen really is putting Lewis Hamilton under pressure here. Hamilton struggling with these tyres, as is really everyone at this stage of the race. Just as I said that, they're all dropping into the 17s now. But Hamilton's been on the radio complaining about his tyres, as he very often does in the Grand Prix. And Max is looking to put him under pressure. But as I'm saying that, Hamilton extending the gap ever so slightly. But Max, especially in that third sector, is looking very, very strong.
He is, and that is where, and it was the case last year. That's where the Red Bull gains the most time. It's the final sector, because it is very, well, slow speed. And that's why the Red Bull does well there. He's still, though, Max, right there, only about 3/4 of a second behind. So Hamilton still under pressure. Vettel is slowly but surely falling back into the hands of Valtteri Bottas. Now, with that 5-second penalty Verstappen has, if he doesn't pit again, then he doesn't have to serve it. But if it rains, he will have to serve the penalty in the pit stop when he goes for intermediate. Here comes Pierre Gastly. Pierre Gastly in the pits. What tyres will he put on? Medium tyres. I think that might be a bit early to pit, considering that group behind Lando Norris
I think he has a gap to Norris. That's why they've pitted him.
Let's see if he does. It's going to be close. Here he comes. Gasly comes out the pits and has done it. He's done it. P9. So Gasly effectively is P5. So well done to the boys at Red Bull for getting that one right. So Carlos Sainz is now to P5. He hasn't pitted yet. Neither is Kvyat or Albon. Toro Rosso looking pretty good at the moment. If they stay out and build the gap to Norris, they might get a double points finish. P8 is Grosjean. He's looking good as well. He could be on for a better result than his teammate. And then Gasly, P9. We've been saying that Lando Norris is in trouble, but he is still in the points. I mean, at the moment he's only getting 1 point, but that is still a point for now, as we now cross on to lap 29 out of 78. And I think, look, the Ferrari of Sebastian Vettel is now fell a second behind. So if Bottas now can close up, he can have a go, I think, or more of a go on Vettel than he could before. But it looks like Valtteri also has dropped back. There's a spot of rain there on the camera.
Yes, reports that it is now raining at the circuit, but not too heavy.
Okay, there is Carlos Sainz, who apparently has just reported rain on his visor. As Martin Brundle would say, when you're driving, it seems like it's raining a lot more than it actually is. So their representation of whether it's raining or not might be a lot different to people stood still at the track. But if Valtteri Bottas can now get in DRS of Vettel, because Vettel is outside of the DRS of Verstappen, then Bottas, I think, could start to have a go at Vettel. Max only 0.6 of a second behind. Good exit there for Max Verstappen out the final corner. He will close up to probably half a second or 0.4 of a second into the first corner. No, it's about 0.6 of a second. Just looking at the gaps. By the way, Norris, credit to him now, he has pulled away from Lance Stroll. And now Stroll is holding up Kimi Räikkönen. Ricciardo has dropped back from Räikkönen. And Magnussen is slightly dropped back from him, with Perez and Hulkenberg and Russell on the back of that pack. Russell putting in a stellar performance in the Williams, you have to say. As Verstappen still only 0.75 of a second behind. And I think, honestly, at this point, you'd have to say, if Max got past Lewis, Max would pull away. He's definitely the faster driver, no doubt about it.
Definitely. I think Max is just doing the perfect job at the moment, just gently applying some pressure to Lewis, maybe making Lewis, there's more rain on the camera lens than there was certainly last lap at the swimming pool, but just putting Lewis under a little bit more pressure, getting him to use those tyres, a lot more rain at Anthony Nogues there. Now, it is really starting to just lightly rain a little bit more is at Monaco, but Max just putting that pressure on, getting Hamilton to use his tyres up a bit more than what he wanted to, as Carlos Sainz has just pitted, and he will come out around about Pierre Gasly, as, of course, Gasly comfortably come out ahead on Lando Norris and co. But Max, I think he are really doing the perfect job.
Yeah, he's doing very well. But the issue is, if he continues to be held up by Hamilton, he can't pull the gap to Vettel and Bottas. So what he needs to do is go for it on Lewis Hamilton and then try and pull a gap to the 3 behind him. But that is proving to be very hard right now for obvious reasons. So Carlos Sainz is pitted and come out in P9. So Kvyat is now 5th, hasn't pitted. Neither is Albon in 6th. And then it's Grosjean in P7. And then Pierre Gasly is into P8. And then P9 is Carlos Sainz. So Sainz is now basically guaranteed a points finish because of his teammate holding up the rest of the pack and being as slow as he has been. Rain is slightly falling at the track, but not enough, by the way, to force a pit stop. It will take a lot more for the drivers to come into the pit lane. As Verstappen, about half a second off the lead. He needs to try and push Lewis Hamilton into wearing out his tyres quicker, because if he does that, then I think Max could get past. But at the moment, as it is, I think Lewis is just managing what he has. But if Max can try and push Lewis into wearing out his tyres a bit more than he'd want to, then that might give him an opportunity. By the way, Bottas now 6/10 behind Vettel. Because Vettel doesn't have DRS on Verstappen, that's going to help Valtteri close up. Look at Verstappen now closing up a bit to Hamilton. Things on board of Lewis Hamilton look, it looks very calm, very settled. Bit of wear down the left front, you can see on the inside shoulder. There you see it right now. So Lewis Hamilton's tyres are wearing, and we're not even at half distance yet. We've still got another 45 laps to go, as Danny Kvyat has pitted in the Toro Rosso. Can he jump Sainz? That'd be great for him if he could. That'd get him up to P6 in this Grand Prix, net P6. Here he comes. Medium compound tyres goes on. There goes Gasly. There goes Sainz. Will Kvyat do it? Here we go. No, Sainz is going to get him just about. Kvyat, maybe if he had an extra lap, he could have done it.
Well, Carlos Sainz just set the fastest lap of the race, a 1:15.8, and that is the reason why he got ahead of Danny Kvyat there. So fantastic lap there by Carlos Sainz to stay ahead.
Absolutely. Was it 15.8, 15.5, something like that?
Yeah, 15.8.
Yeah, 15.8. A great lap. Let's see what Albon and Grosjean can do now. Because I think Kvyat, the reason he was a bit closer was because of the overcut. He really pushed hard on his in-lap. So Gasly's back up to P7. And then Carlos Sainz is into P8. And then Kvyat... Kvyat is P9. Let me just mute myself to cough. But yeah, Max now is about a 10th closer to Lewis Hamilton. I am now, by the way, going to post a new picture for you guys as Max's tyres, no surprise, because they're a compound harder, look a lot better for me than Hamilton's.
Certainly that left front does. Lewis has been reporting that it's opening up, and we've seen that on board before, so that left front is going to be an issue for Hamilton as we go later into this race.
Absolutely will, and front end grip at Monaco is something that's very, very important. Very important, especially in these fast corners where you really need to whip the front of the car into the corner. That is the situation at Monaco. Hamilton from Verstappen, Vettel 3rd, Bottas 4th. For now, Alexander Albon 5th. And is Max closer? No, he's not closer. Bottas, by the way, has dropped back quite a bit from Vettel. He's now 1.7 behind. That is not good. And Alexander Albon is actually going faster than him right now. Is Albon compared to Bottas?
Second and a half on that last lap, actually.
Yes, he must have made a mistake, Valtteri, or his tyres have just completely had it if he's been pushing hard. Raikkonen hasn't pitted and is still on the soft compound tyre. He is currently right behind Lance Stroll. And then Magnussen currently is holding up Perez and Hulkenberg in the Haas. So we do have battles still on track. Perez and Hulkenberg did pit under the safety car. So did Magnussen. So they will go to the end. As this is Max Verstappen right behind Hamilton. And
the
really,
cruising Lewis Hamilton.
Absolutely. And you can see as the lap goes on, the Red Bull gets better around this track. As you open the DRS now, and it's about a 10th closer on this lap, but not close enough. Go for a move. And Alexander Albon again faster on this lap compared to Bottas by, I think, like half a second or something like that. So Valtteri either has a tyre issue or has an issue with his car, because should not be losing time to a Toro Rosso. And if that continues, then Pierre Gasly, who's on fresh tyres now, might start to close on him. Here's a replay of Grosjean cutting it fine. That's how you have to do it. You've got to kiss the barriers, not slam into them. There is Albon and Grosjean. And they are matching the leader, not the leader's pace, but they're matching Bottas.
No,
and
they are.
That's
how much the midfield of the leaders are cruising at the moment. Even Robert Kubica's on pace with Lewis Hamilton at the moment. That's how much the leaders are cruising at the front.
Wow, that is incredible. And Albon on this lap continuing to close. Albon, of course, at this point is pushing hard because he is trying to overcut Gasly, Sainz, and his teammate Kvyat. So Albon is pushing like crazy, and so is Grosjean. Is Albon going to pit? No, Grosjean won't pit either. They're going to continue. Of course, if there's another safety car, they will benefit massively from that. So they're also kind of staying out for that as well. But yeah, not the drivers that haven't pitted are Albon, Grosjean, Norris, Stroll, Raikkonen, and then the rest of the teams, I believe, have pitted. But things...
Giovinazzi hasn't pitted either, but he doesn't really matter in this race, to be honest with you. He's behind George Russell.
No, he doesn't matter in this Grand Prix. And he has a 10-second penalty. So he will probably lose out to one of the Williamses in this race, which is quite embarrassing considering how bad that Williams is. Yeah, everything at the front is formation flying at the moment. Nib, for the next couple minutes until there's something new happens, do you mind reading out some comments?
I will do that, although the chat is moving very fast at the moment. Boo Radley saying, what happened to Ricardo? Started 6th. What went wrong, please? Well, during the safety car window, him and Kevin Magnussen decided to pit, and because of Lando Norris's poor pace, a massive gap opened up, and that has cost Ricardo and Magnussen dearly. Of course, they're currently in 13th and 14th, and that has certainly allowed the likes of Gasly, Sainz, and Kvyat, and probably going to be allowing maybe even Albon and Grosjean to jump them. So, bit of a mistake there by the Renault and Haas outfit there. I'm just trying to see if there are any more comments. Yes, indeed. I've just seen a good comment there by AB saying Kimi doing 40 laps on soft is concerning. Well, along with Alex Albon and Roman Grosjean, they've done 37 laps on the soft compounded tyre, and they are quite fine in terms of pace. I mean, Kimi really isn't. Albon and Grosjean are quite quick at the moment, matching the leader's pace. But yes, Kimi is in the mid-19, so he is not going too quick at the moment. They're probably just waiting for some sort of window potentially to open up to pit Kimi Raikkonen. But I think it's just becoming a little bit of a waiting game here although I must say, as we've got a replay here of Kimi, I believe. What's happened? Oh, big lock up there for the car ahead, and that car is Lance Stroll. Oh,
Oh,
contact there. As Kimi was
contact.
trying to find a way past Lance Stroll there. Massive lock up, and that certainly won't help Lance Stroll's tyres. Of course, he's been on his mediums for 37 laps as well as he hasn't pitted. But just as I was saying, Kimi is certainly not going that quick in this race at the moment.
No, he's not. He's closed back up to Stroll now, but yeah, I think there was nothing Raikkonen could really do there, and nothing really Stroll could do. I mean, two cars can't really fit on that part of the track without making contact, so I don't think really anyone is to blame there. But yeah, Stroll struggling, and you've been seeing that for the last 10 laps or so. As by the way, we are now halfway through the Monaco Grand Prix. We're now lap 40 out of 78. That's how long this Grand Prix is, and that's why I kind of like it being that long, because it's kind of an endurance race for the drivers and also the cars as well. As look at how close Max is getting there.
Might I just say, there is some graining on that left front of Max's tyre there, but it's certainly not as bad as what we've seen on Hamilton. Certainly graining there on the left front of Max Verstappen.
Yeah, you can see it. Again, not as bad as Hamilton's, but starting to, and that's because he's trying so hard to get past, or get close enough to get past, and they're now coming up to lap someone as Lance Stroll has finally pitted. So that's smart from Racing Point, because his tyres, I'm sure, are absolutely gone. So Kimi Raikkonen has stayed out, and he is in P11.
Max
Verstappen
closer than ever to Hamilton here, that's for sure. He is really closing up. DRS down the pit straight, but of course he won't get anywhere near close enough to make a move on Lewis Hamilton. But now we've got another car, and that'll be Alexander Albon coming into the pits. And with the gaps in the midfield, he should be coming around about where his teammate is of Danny Kvyat, because his pace has been very good, has Alex Albon's, on those soft tyres. So let's see where he comes out. A pretty solid pit stop there for Toro Rosso. Wasn't that fast, but still a solid pit stop nonetheless. And indeed, he's going to come out behind his teammate Danny Kvyat. Into P9 is Alexander Albon.
Yeah, indeed. So at the moment for Toro Rosso, 7th and 8th on for them. That's great. Yellow flag in Sector 1 and Sector 2. What's that for? Oh, it's green now. Maybe someone clipped the wall. It's most likely because someone's ran wide or something like that. Barking there from Hamilton. He's about to lap Robert Kubica in Williams. He lets them both through very nicely. This Kubica. By the way, Lance Stroll has come out in 18th. He's even come out behind Russell, who has pitted. So the Williams of Russell is really, he could be on for a 14th or a 13th in this race, and that'd be the best finish they've had this season. So great for them. So Stroll is 18th, and Kubica is, hold on a minute, is 19th.
We're seeing a few more raindrops on the camera lenses now. It looks like it dropped off for a couple of laps, but now the rain might just be coming back to us here at Monaco.
By the way, for anyone asking in the chat, I just saw someone saying, what happened to Magnussen? The same as Ricciardo. Pitted with Ricciardo and lost out because of getting held up behind Lando Norris. So basically, made a mistake on strategy, should have stayed out. And, well, as I said, clean air is very important here. If you have clean air, you'll do fine. If you don't, you won't do fine. Simple as that, really. But Verstappen, closer than ever to the back of Lewis Hamilton. I just need to update the order quickly as Albon has pitted. So you've got Grosjean P5, Verstappen, I don't think will be going for a move. No, he's way too far behind. Gasly P6. Verstappen, though, look, closing up a lot under braking. So I think that does show that the tyre life is definitely better on the Red Bull than the Mercedes, and that is not a surprise, to be honest. So Kvyat is 8th, and then Albon is in P9. But look at Max. He's really getting to the point where he's going to start ducking and diving behind Hamilton, trying to find a different line, as we are on, by the way, lap 43 out of 78. As just trying to look at some more gaps. Grosjean, by the way, is closing in on Bottas, so Grosjean going quite quickly. All clipping the inside there. The curb a bit was Max Verstappen. But this is the battle for the lead. The closest battle on track. Only 0.6 of a second separating. A bit more rain on the camera, but I don't think it is raining properly to actually cause the drivers to take intermediate tyres. As Max again still remaining half a second behind. And at the moment, Max Verstappen is on to finish in P4 because of the unsafe release penalty. Let me quickly, actually, I was just going to say, let me get a new picture, and I found it. As yet, things right now really settled down.
Might I just say, Sebastian Vettel is doing a good job to hang on to these two here at the moment, and I've seen on Twitter that his tyres look in the best condition out of anyone so far, as we're just getting a shot, I'd assume, of Lewis Hamilton's front wing there, coming through, or coming out of the Nouvelle chicane, certainly is Max Verstappen on that image. And there you go, a little bit of floor damage for Max after that contact he had with Bottas in the pit lane, which of course is the reason why he has a 5-second time penalty. But Valtteri Bottas is dropping off the back of Sebastian Vettel at the moment. 2.2 seconds behind is Valtteri Bottas from Sebastian Vettel. And since that pit stop and since he fell behind Max Verstappen, it's been quite a bit of a disaster. Well, it hasn't been a great race this afternoon so far for Valtteri Bottas.
Yeah, definitely hasn't. Two things. New picture. That's Raikkonen and Stroll when they made contact. And also, new fastest lap. Alexander Albon. Very interesting. And I think, again, that shows that fresher tyres are helping those drivers do that. But yeah, Albon did a, what was it, 15.6 in the Toro Rosso. So, great lap there for Albon. And now, oh, look at Perez and Magnussen. Look how close they are. Oh, Perez was very close to Magnussen there. I think we should see a replay of that very soon. Perez was only 0.03 of a second behind K-Mag on the track then. There you go. Was that them or was that someone else? And that's Stroll and Giovinazzi. Oh, this will be difficult to lap because they're battling. And as we saw in Singapore last year of Grosjean and Sirotkin, sometimes battling drivers are not going to show you respect. And I think Stroll, and there you go, Giovinazzi pits, so that helps these drivers really a lot. But yeah, Perez, a minute ago, was 0.03 of a second behind Magnussen. So we should see a replay of Perez. And look at this. Here you go. Look at this. Raikkonen, Ricciardo, Magnussen, Perez, Hulkenberg. This is great. Look at that. That's a great shot. It is. It's a Kimi train.
Russell there, nearly joining in.
He is. He's only two. Look at him. He's just gained 7/10 through that bit. Russell is on for a great. Here we go. Look. So Perez has thrown it down the inside of the Nouvelle. And is that contact? Yes, contact.
Wheel-to-wheel contact.
And Magnussen cuts the chicane. Should Magnussen give the position back? I'm not sure he should. We need to see a further replay of that. But Raikkonen definitely holding people up.
Well, Kimi is on 44-lap-old soft compound of tyres here, and surely Daniel Ricciardo should get past him down into turn one. He's going to try go around the outside, but he's not close enough. And
Switch back.
Kimi is just absolutely holding up these drivers a treat here, as Ricciardo was attempting that switchback. But we're not seeing. Okay, yep, isn't quite close enough. But Sergio Perez there, I think him and Magnussen were wheel to
Look how
wheel as
close he
Perez
is.
getting very close to Magnussen. But Magnussen just about holds on into Mirabeau. But Kimi, I wouldn't be surprised if there's some contact here or more
Look,
contact here
Russell.
soon. Look at that, Russell. Oh, and the leaders are closing up to this battle as well. So the leaders will be praying that Kimi Räikkönen pits, because if the leaders have to get through this train, it's going to be an absolute nightmare.
By the way, Perez, I thought was going to throw it down the inside of Magnussen at the hairpin. He looked like he was close enough, but I think he thought maybe go for it at the Nouvelle chicane. Ricciardo looking from behind Raikkonen. I tell you, I hope Kimi stays out just so they can give us some more entertainment, because look at that. That's fantastic. 5 cars almost nudging each other along. Look at this. And yes, Kimi Räikkönen pits finally. Finally, he would have been praying for a pit stop. But there you go. So Raikkonen now released into P11. And, well, Daniel Ricciardo's chances of point. Well, he can get a point when Norris pits. Or no, look, Norris is about a pit stop ahead, isn't he?
Yeah, just about a pit stop ahead.
So Ricciardo, as it stands, is not going to get a point unless he can close the gap. And he should be able to, because Norris has been poor today. But here comes then Hamilton and Verstappen and Vettel and Bottas. 5-second penalty for Lance Stroll for leaving the track and gaining an advantage. I haven't seen that. But the leader's now got a lap this slot, and this might give an opportunity to Max to possibly throw one down the inside, possibly. But let me just quickly redo the order. And there you go, Hamilton and Verstappen down the inside of Stroll. Good driving there from Stroll. And for Russell. Oh, that's really holding up the drive. That was that's poor. Look look at that.
Oh, that is horrific by Lance Stroll.
That is a penalty, no doubt.
That
horrific
is a dead
driving.
penalty.
What? He held him up so bad. He cost him 3 seconds. That was
Norris
absolutely...
has just pitted and come out behind Ricciardo. Just quickly mention that.
Yeah, and only by a second. So Ricciardo doing enough there. Thank God for him, Raikkonen pitted, or else Norris would have got the final point. So good there for Ricciardo. So Norris P11. And then Magnussen is into P12. And I think we're seeing here fresh tyres are really helping certain drivers make their way through the field. 14th is Nico Hulkenberg. Russell is 15th and has now dropped back massively, but I think that's because he was letting the cars through. So once Hulkenberg does, which he's about to in a minute, then Russell should catch back up. So Russell 15th, and then you've got Stroll in 17th, and then Kimi Räikkönen has come back out in 17th place and is miles behind Lance Stroll. So Kimi Räikkönen, his race is dead, pretty much. Kubica is 18th, and then Giovinazzi is 19th. And by the way, Leclerc is out because of floor damage after colliding with the wall and kind of Nico Hulkenberg, getting a puncture, destroying his floor, and is out the Grand Prix. And look how far Ricciardo is behind the Toro Rossos. 43.5 seconds. That's how much time he lost by being in the traffic. And that is why, well, it's clear it was a mistake by Ricciardo, or by Renault and Haas rather, to pit their 2 drivers, because they've lost about 2 pit stops worth of time. That's awful for them, as Verstappen still right on the back of Lewis Hamilton. By the way, we're on lap 50 out of 78. Lap 50 out of 78 with 28 to go. Gastly, by the way, has caught Grosjean, who still has not pitted. Kvyat and Albon are now right up behind Carlos Sainz. Albon is quite close to his teammate. That battle between Perez, Magnussen, Hulkenberg is now ended as the gaps have now strung out again. But the battle we should be seeing is the Toro Rossos, because look at Albon. He's only 3.5 tenths of a second behind his teammate. And Kvyat is in the DRS of Carlos Sainz. So we should be seeing that. And here he comes, Romain Grosjean, into the pits. He will likely come out P9. So here he comes and puts on a medium compound tyre. Gastly up to P5. Grosjean is P6. And then you got Sainz, Kvyat. Oh, so now Sainz, Kvyat and Albon have gone through. So Sainz is up to P6. Great for Carlos Sainz. What a result this is for McLaren right now. 8 constructors points. They're going to pull away again in the constructors in P4. A great day for McLaren. Hopefully for them that continues. As Kvyat is 7th, Albon is 8th. So great day for Toro Rosso so far. And then Grosjean is in P9. But again, we've gone back in to a bit of a lull here in Monaco, as we're now about to start lap 52 out of 78. I will be interested to see if Pierre Gastly can close on Bottas. I think he is, by quite a bit a lap. Because Gastly is on fresh mediums and Bottas is on old, worn, hard compound tyres. There's Lewis Hamilton's left front medium tyre. Looking absolutely terrible right now. But yeah, there you go. As more rain on the camera there, but there won't be any rain. As, by the way, Lando Norris look has closed up to Ricciardo. He's only half a second behind.
Well, Lando Norris is on brand spanking new, fresh, soft tyres, whereas like Ricciardo is on 39-lap-old medium tyres. So I would not be surprised at all if Lando Norris is able to get past Daniel Ricciardo for that final point.
Yep. Fresh, soft tyres, that should give Lando a decent opportunity of getting past Ricciardo. As we know, the McLaren this year, even though it's got the same power unit, it's a bit more rapid in a straight line. So yeah. So Max Verstappen, DRS, again, not close enough though to go for a move. I want to see, honestly, at this point, Ricciardo and the Norris battle, because I get a feeling that is going to be the next piece of action. This Hamilton-Verstappen battle, it's close, but Verstappen's not going to make a move. Hamilton's too good, and the Mercedes car is too good, but they are coming up to traffic now in Nico Hulkenberg and Sergio Perez. So that might offer up something different. Let me just quickly though show the battle that was happening, but because Kimi Räikkönen pitted, it stopped happening. Here's a replay of Kvyat. Oh, so Sainz has lapped Kubica, and then Kvyat has took to the chicane to lap him. Look at that. That looks like rain, possibly.
But it's just all blown past.
Let's pray. I think Kvyat will be fine to do that, because there has been racetracks in the past where you can cut corners to get past traffic, and people have got away with it. So I think here's a picture of that Räikkönen train that was a few laps ago. I think he'll be fine with that, because the Williams did hold him up quite a bit. As Verstappen getting a bit closer, but not close enough.
Max really is getting closer now in the first sector. I think Hamilton's tyres really are now starting to be pushed to the limit. And Max, as we can see, 6/10 or so behind here. And that's usually what was been to seeing him in the final sector. So Max now really, really putting Hamilton under tremendous amounts of pressure.
Yeah, definitely. And now I'm just keeping an eye on the battles throughout the field. The Sainz Kvyat Albon fight has kind of ended for now. It's strung out a bit. The only close fight on track is this fight. And look at Verstappen really closing up. By the way, with Max's penalty, Ferrari are on for a great result, a P2. That'd be their highest position so far this season. This weekend has been terrible for the team, but if they can get a P2 out of this weekend, then it will be a good consolation from what has been, again, a terrible weekend. Max looking a bit close there. And can he try and get a good run out here? Hulkenberg smartly lets them both through. Verstappen, look, closer than ever through the tunnel, but not close enough. But he's definitely closing again. And the next car they're going to lap, or the next cars will be Perez, Magnussen, Norris, and Ricciardo. And then I think that'll be the only cars that get lapped, because Grosjean, Albon, Sainz, and Kvyat are on basically the leader's pace, and they're too far ahead anyway to be lapped. Yeah, still Hamilton first, Verstappen second, Vettel third, Bottas fourth at the front. Lap 56 out of 78. And I guess Hamilton's on the radio again. Look, now his right front is wearing. Look at that. So both front tyres are wearing now, and slightly now on the rear. So the tyres are starting to let go. And things could get interesting. We've still got another 22 laps to go. Still a long way to go in this Monaco Grand Prix. So if Max can try and get Lewis to burn out his tyres even more, as Verstappen now dropping back quite a bit. If we can get Hamilton to lose some more time by wearing out his tyres, then that could present an opportunity. But so yeah, Verstappen, let's drop back quite a bit. He's now without DRS now. Sebastian Vettel is the man in the pound seat. And yet Verstappen won't get DRS on this lap, but Sebastian Vettel, in the quickest car in a straight line in Formula 1 right now, does. Vettel had a quiet race, but you have to say, Nib, he's having a good Grand Prix.
Indeed he is, and those tyres look so much better than Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton's. I wouldn't be surprised if Vettel does put the drivers ahead under pressure in the remaining laps of this Grand Prix. Of course, I don't think the Ferrari is faster than the Red Bull or the Mercedes, but I think that he will be in the hunt here in the final laps. As we're saying, Max was dropping back. He's back within about half a second of Lewis Hamilton once again, but Hamilton driving basically as slow as he possibly can to try and get these tyres to the end of the race. And there's absolutely nothing Max Verstappen can do about it at the moment. Although Max, at some parts of the track, is getting closer than he ever has done before, but still just not close enough as to come through the swimming pool section now. And Toto Wolff looking quite concerned, because Hamilton has been on the radio complaining about his tyres so much, as he usually does. But Toto Wolff, I don't think, should be too worried unless a tyre potentially goes boom.
But Verstappen is the closest look he's ever been. Only half a second now. By the way, very close battle for P7 between Kvyat, Albon and Grosjean. So we'll watch out for that. Albon and Grosjean are on much fresher tyres than Kvyat. So that's a battle we're going to be looking out for, because might get something happening there. Verstappen so tantalizingly close. And again, if Max passed Lewis, he would fly off into the distance. Lewis there losing the rear end slightly. And we've still got 20 laps to go.
On the radio to his team, to his engineer Peter Bonneting, saying we're going to lose this race. Hamilton really not confident about his tyre situation here, and you can see every single lap his situation in terms with Verstappen is getting worse and worse. Verstappen is closer and closer every single lap, and if Verstappen is close enough through Mirabeau, I think he could potentially look for a move down into the hairpin, because that seems to be where he gains the most time on Hamilton in a single corner.
Yeah, it is. Verstappen has dropped back, though, a couple tenths on this lap. But I'm sure now he'll come straight back at Hamilton and try to stick with him. The Kvyat Albon Grosjean battle has kind of ended for now, because Albon and Grosjean have fallen out of DRS. Stroll is within DRS of Russell, but not properly close. The closest battle on track is Lewis Hamilton versus Max Verstappen for maybe not the race win at Monaco, because Verstappen does have a 5-second penalty. So at the moment, Max Verstappen will finish in P4, as Verstappen about half a second behind. And again, as I've said, there's only about 19 laps to go. So still a long way to go to get those tyres to the end. So the pain is going to get even worse. And I think Lewis will do well to hold off Max Verstappen, honestly, because doing what has been, or what is going to be, 60-odd laps on mediums is incredible. And here is Perez. Has he made the move on Magnussen, or is that a replay? That's a replay.
It's a replay.
I think Magnussen's okay there, because I don't think he could have gone anywhere. So I think that's just about okay between Perez and Magnussen from earlier on. And look at Max. He looks closer than ever in the hairpin. And we're now 18 laps. Look how close he is. Now he's about a tenth closer than he was previous lap in the tunnel, but still not close enough. Oh, he's so, again, tantalizingly close to the back end of that Mercedes car. Let me quickly post a different picture for you guys, as Vettel is still hanging on. If anything happens ahead, Vettel will benefit from that. As Max, look how close he is now. DRS open. Maybe in 10 laps time, he'll have enough. And look how close he is under braking as well. Maybe, just maybe, in say 10 laps time, when the tyres really get bad for Hamilton, maybe that's the time Verstappen can go for the move and start to build that 5-second lead. But let me quickly post a picture of the situation at Monaco. There you go. That's how close it is. As Verstappen is close. Ooh. Very close. Not close enough, though. That's what I mean. At Monaco, you've got to be probably within 0.3 of a second out of Mirabeau to maybe have a go down into the Nouvelle Chicane, as we are halfway through lap 61 out of 78. This really is an endurance race for these front runners. And yeah, Verstappen close. Not close enough, though. He needs to start getting Hamilton to start spinning those rear tyres up more. If he can get him to do that, then that's where he will start to really close on the exit of corners. As still about half a second behind. They are coming up to lap who is it? Kevin Magnussen in the Haas. But I'm not sure they're closing quick enough, really, for them to be able to do so at the moment. But the order that's running along the bottom of your screen, by the way, is the current order. Verstappen still close in that hairpin. And if he takes a wide turn in here and gets a clean exit, then that should give him a decent run down to the chicane. He looks closer here, but again, still not close enough. But yeah, now lap 62 up to 78. And it is still very, very close as Mercedes. I don't think they're getting ready for a pit stop. But I just want to say, before any more action happens, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. And also like this video as we do watch-alongs for every F1 Grand Prix weekend. And we will do the same for Canada in a fortnight's time. So don't forget to subscribe for that content. Bottom right of the screen, you can do it right there, or go to my homepage, subscribe, and hit the notifications bell for that content as Pierre Gastly comes in to the pits. Now, he does have a gap to Carlos Sainz, so this will be a fastest lap attempt as he puts on the soft compound tyres. As I don't even know what that was we saw. As Gastly, yet will come out in P5 quite comfortably. Hamilton, oh look how close is the front, come on, show us. Oh, they're not showing us, but Hamilton and Verstappen were very close then. It was about 0.4 of a second. Here you go.
I was about to say, it was probably through Portier, because that's where Verstappen is really, really close, but then just on the exit, Hamilton's able to pull a little bit of a gap before we then head into back in the swimming pool section, and then he's just out of reach for Verstappen by the time we get down to Saint-Devote.
Indeed. As I think what Verstappen needs to start trying to do is kind of taking a wider turn in, if he can, to the corners and try and optimize traction out of the corners. As we are now 15 laps to go in the 2019 Monaco Grand Prix. Sebastian Vettel, by the way, still hanging on in third place. He's not too far behind. If anything happens ahead, he will capitalise on it. But will anything happen ahead? We will have to see. Oh, look how close he's getting. If he can get a couple tenths closer, then he might be able to make a dive bomb work into that hairpin. As is he close enough? He's about 0.4 behind Verstappen, now 0.5. He's so, again, too close at the front. They are coming up slowly but surely to lap Kevin Magnussen in the Haas. I get a feeling that Max will go for it eventually, because what does he have to lose at this point? He's not in the championship fight. Right now, he will finish. Actually, he'll finish P3 because Bottas has dropped back. So right now, he's going to lose out to Vettel. So he might as well set himself up for a dive bomb somewhere, because he has nothing to lose at this point. As they now run up the hill. And if he can remain about half a second or 0.4 of a second behind into Mirabeau like that, then maybe he could go for a dive bomb, because look how close he gets under braking. As very close again now through Portier. Sebastian Vettel only 1.2 behind Verstappen. Now about a second behind Verstappen. And Verstappen's still very close. Nib, do you think Verstappen will eventually go for a dive bomb? Again, considering he doesn't have anything to lose here.
I think perhaps an old Max Verstappen would go for a dive bomb. I don't, saying he's got nothing to lose, of course, it's very early in the championship. Those 18 points could be very valuable at the end of the day in potentially a fight with Ferrari in the constructors. But Max really closer than ever, going down the pitch straight, but just not gaining enough in a straight line on Lewis Hamilton as he goes a little bit wide there through Sandoval, and Valtteri Bottas pumps in a fastest lap of a 1:15.1, which is 2 seconds quicker than what Lewis Hamilton is doing at the front. So that really does show you how much Hamilton is struggling on those tyres that he's on here, and Verstappen just not close enough through Mirabeau to be able to potentially make a move into the hairpin, which is where he really has been closest to Hamilton, of course, because the cars are going only at about 60 kilometers an hour or whatever it is. But Max, he just really, I don't think he will risk it all. I really don't. And maybe an old Max might, but I don't think he will.
To be honest, I think he should, because as it stands, again, he'll finish third, but Red Bull are going to gain in the constructors anyway because Leclerc is out, and Vettel, he'll get 18, and then Red Bull get 25 points if Verstappen finishes third, which he will at this rate, and Gasly finishes in P5. So I think he should go for it because he's not in a championship fight with Mercedes. Yeah, he is in the constructors, but I think there's more chance of it going right, honestly. Because I think if he puts it down the inside of him, I think that's where Hamilton will then completely lose all tyre life. And then he'll start to drop back through, or not drop back through the field, but drop probably behind Vettel even. Because once you get offline on worn tyres, that's basically it. You might as well pit. As very close. And they're still not catching Magnussen that quickly, as Pierre Gasly has just done the fastest lap on soft tyres. Max looks a bit closer here. No, he's not a bit closer. He's about 10th off where he was when he was at the closest point behind. By the way, lap 67 out of 78, there is Pierre Gasly. At the moment, he is scoring 11 points for Red Bull. And with Verstappen, well, Verstappen now is going to drop back to P4. So at the moment, for Red Bull, they will score 23 points and Ferrari would score 18. So looking good for Red Bull and the constructors. But right now, they have a chance of a win at Monaco if Verstappen can get past Hamilton and build a 5-second cushion. But it doesn't look likely at the moment. As just looking at the field, this is the closest fight on track. And it's been like this for the entire Grand Prix. And you have to say, this is a great battle. I know there hasn't been any, wheel-to-wheel action, but this has been very exciting for me. Seeing these two go not wheel-to-wheel, but being this close. Look how close he was then. Is he closer here? Looks closer. And out of the corner, you can see the Mercedes just pulls away. More power. And of course, when you're the car behind, the Constantina effect means that you obviously get on the power later. But this is great to see. It really is. Two drivers, top of their game, going head-to-head for the win of the Monaco Grand Prix. The two best drivers right now for me in Formula 1, Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. As Magnussen looks like he is dropping back into Hamilton's hands, so he will be lapped pretty soon. Vettel has now dropped a bit back from Verstappen. Kvyat has now got within DRS, I think, of Carlos Sainz for P6, as we have 10 laps to go in Monaco. 10 laps to go. We've been, the race has been on for an hour and a half now. It's been a very long one, but it ain't over yet. And again, if Verstappen can get a couple tenths closer into Mirabeau, he could put it down the inside of the hairpin. He really could. Max looks about a tenth closer this lap, but still not close enough. And this is why also the drivers love Monaco, because when you're in a close battle like this for the race win, it's a great track to drive and to really test yourself, to not, crash out and hit the barriers, and to be able to keep your cool for this long when in a battle like this. This is why Monaco is so great, and this is why I'd be gutted if we lost it off the calendar. As Verstappen, is he closer? He is closer. This is the closest he's been on the pit straight. Not close enough, but that's the closest he has been on the pit straight. Now, hopefully, he can be close enough when they get to Mirabeau. So here we go. 0.4 of a second is the gap. Now it's dropped to 0.6. He's losing time at the top of Casino. And, oh, look.
Oh, he's very close.
Will he go down the inside? No, he doesn't. He goes around the outside now. He'll cut back. Here we go. Max.
Because Hamilton defended brilliantly.
And now look, Max takes the wider line. And can he be close enough here? I don't think he is. Or is he? No, he's not close enough. But he was very close. He was very close. And as I said, if he gets that close into Mirabeau, he can make it work. He can. As
Hamilton seen it coming and he defended the inside line, and that made Max go wide. I think that might just have been Max Verstappen's best opportunity to get past Lewis Hamilton here for the race win.
Yeah, and here goes a replay. So yeah, Hamilton, very smart. He saw it coming, defended the inside briefly, and then came back to the middle of the track. Very smart driving by Hamilton. You can see, look, jinx to the inside, then moves slightly back to the middle. Great driving by Hamilton. As the Red Bull mechanics are so frustrated, they can see an opportunity possibly, but it won't come for them. As Hamilton is really, you have to say, driving so well to keep Max behind. Oh, look how deep on the brakes Verstappen can get. Bottas now, close to Vettel. Verstappen, can he get a better exit here? I don't think he can. No, I don't think he can. When it comes to the Nouvelle Chicane, if he can be, say, 1/10 closer, then he could make a move work down into the Nouvelle Chicane. But the most likely place is the Lowe's hairpin. If he can close up to Mirabeau and then launch one, he can get the move done. As Hamilton pulling away slightly.
Did have a moment through the swimming pool chicane there. I think he might have just missed that. He had a bit of a moment there, but he will just eventually close back up to Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, he will. He did lose about 0.3 of a second. And here you go. Oh, cut the chicane. Cut the chicane. So, front not turning in. Yeah. So, and Max's tyres, they look to be fine. I mean, they were wearing at one point, but they look to be fine. Lewis's tyres, though, look terrible. And look at Max right back on Lewis Hamilton.
I think we can see how much Max is pushing now. He's really pushing. He's getting closer and closer through Portier, but he's just not fast enough in a straight line to make a move down into the Nouvelle Chicane, is he? He's just not close enough.
If this was a Ferrari, you'd have to say he'd probably be able to go for a move down into the Nouvelle Chicane because of the straight line speed they have. If the Red Bull had good straight line speed, I think Verstappen would have got this move done a long, long time ago. But he hasn't, and that's what kind of makes it a bit more exciting. But Verstappen now opens the DRS onto the pit straight. Lap 73 out of 78. It's going to be a tense finish in Monaco. Hamilton from Verstappen, Vettel third, Bottas fourth. The current running order, running along the bottom of your screen, guys, is the live order at Monaco. It hasn't actually changed for quite a long time. Verstappen again, though, not close enough. He needs to be about a couple tenths closer into this corner. Gasly does a new fastest lap of 14.2. As Verstappen again closing up so much. So Red Bull will take home more points than Ferrari at this Grand Prix. And Verstappen has to wait again. Again, though, if he gets as close as he was in Mirabeau that time, a couple laps ago, I think he could do it if he decides to go for it. Gets close-ish on the exit of the chicane. Now through swimming pool. Great part of the track still. even though they have made it easier than it used to be about 20 years ago. And is Verstappen, he is slightly closer on this lap as he opens the DRS. Yeah, he is closer on this lap by about a tenth. He won't go for a move, but he's definitely closer. Now, please, Max, remain this close when they get to Mirabeau, and you can surely have a look. But he's losing time through this part. Again, he's losing about a tenth or two through that part of the track. Time penalty for Romain Grosjean. 5-second penalty. Lewis Hamilton goes slightly... Oh, Max Verstappen sliding the rear, and Grosjean cut the pit lane exit. That's why he's got a penalty. He will finish in P9 still, though, where he is right now. Look how close Max is. And is he close enough? I think he is. I think Max is close enough. Yes, he's close enough. Here comes Max Verstappen. Will he go for it? No. I really hoped he'd go for it. He was so close. He had the slipstream effect of about 3.5 tenths of a second behind. He had the effect of slipstream, but he couldn't quite use it. Still.
I thought he was close enough there. I thought he was going to dive it up the inside, was Max, but past Hamilton here, which I don't think he will at the moment. Hamilton's just quick in the places where he needs to be quicker than Verstappen to stay ahead. But I don't think he'd be able to build that 5-second gap as it stands to win the race.
Yeah, but it would be great, though, if he went down the inside anyway and showed. And there you go, look, Verstappen is winning the Driver of the Day poll, by no surprise. For some reason, Charles Leclerc's in third. I don't get why he's in third, to be honest, but there you go. Verstappen, so close again. The traffic's going to be coming up in a minute. Look at Max Verstappen. So close. He can almost touch that rear wing. He's closer. He's definitely closer. Surely. No, he's fallen slightly too...
He had a bit of a poor exit.
Yeah, if he had a better exit, he could have got him. And has to wait again. Lap 75 out of 78. They've got traffic now. Magnussen has now dropped back into the hands of Hamilton almost. So Lewis now needs to get up to the back of Magnussen and get his DRS so he can pull away for at least a lap. But yeah, do you get that, Nib? Leclerc third in the Driver of the Day? I don't get that.
I have no idea. I personally think Romain Grosjean should be in contention for Driver of the Day. He's done a fantastic job that first stint. He was brilliant, but yeah, probably just the internet being the internet.
Yeah, I'd say Carlos Sainz. He's been great. Kvyat and Albon as well. Been great for Toro Rosso. I don't get why Leclerc's third. That makes no sense whatsoever. But there you go. Lap 76 out of 78. Max there. He's not as close as he was. He ran a bit wide at Mirabeau. And now, is he close? Oh, he's close. He's close. Will he go for it this time? Oh, he's close. Is he going to go for it? Down the inside! He touches him, and he hits his front wing, hits his rear tyre, but no, Lewis Hamilton gets away with it. Oh, unbelievable. Max almost made it work. Here we go, replay. Very quick replay. And just about okay. Oh, look at this, down the inside. And I think that's fair racing. I don't think there should be any penalties or anything. Lewis was entitled to turn in. Max didn't have enough of his car alongside. Hopefully, though, for Lewis Hamilton, he doesn't have a puncture. That was hard contact, though he might do. Can Verstappen, though, catch back up? Lap 77 out of 78. That was very, very exciting. But will Max be able to catch back up? We'll have to see.
I must say, once again, good defending there by Lewis Hamilton. He closed the door on Verstappen absolutely perfectly and just made sure that Max just couldn't stop. Brilliant defending there by Hamilton, in my opinion. And he is driven absolutely sensationally on 65-lap-old medium tyres at the moment to keep this first place here at Monaco.
Absolutely. If Hamilton wins, see, for me, Hamilton has to be driver of the day if he does win, to keep the lead on that old compound of tyre. That's unbelievable. By the way, Max has caught Lewis back up now. Could we have a final lap decider? Good driving there this time from the Alfa. Not for Vettel, though. Vettel now gets held up by the Alfa. I don't know if Bottas and Vettel are close. I don't think they are. Final lap at Monaco. Verstappen, can he go for the move? As they run up Casino Square, I'm not sure he's close enough to go for a move. As they're now coming down into Mirabeau. No, Hamilton, I think, is far enough ahead. Under investigation is Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. I think that was fine. I don't think there should be any penalties. Look at that. Max is gaining about 0.4 of a second in the hairpin alone. And he must be using his max engine power now. No pun intended. As now, he runs to the Nouvelle. Does Lewis Hamilton as quickly as he can. He's moments away from his third win at Monaco. His first win in Monaco in the dry. Can he do it, or will Max go for it at the end? I don't think Max will challenge him in the end. Lewis Hamilton, I think, is going to take his third win at the Monaco Grand Prix. Exits the final corner. And Lewis Hamilton wins the 2019 Monaco Grand Prix from Max Verstappen second, Vettel third, Bottas fourth. So Verstappen drops back to fourth. Vettel second then, and Bottas third. Gasly is fifth. Sainz is sixth. Kvyat is seventh. Albon 8th, Grosjean 9th, Ricciardo 10th, then Norris 11th, Magnussen 12th, Perez 13th, Hulkenberg 14th, 15th is Russell, 16th is Stroll, and then at the back is Raikkonen, Kubica and Giovinazzi, with the only retirement being the home driver, Charles Leclerc. But that was an epic battle for the win. Epic battle for the win between Hamilton and Verstappen. And there you go. There is your Monaco Grand Prix. And I have to say, I thought that was pretty good. Especially the battle at the front. That was very tense. As
that was absolutely brilliant at the end. Absolutely nail-biting stuff. Wow, what a finish to the Monaco Grand Prix we have had there. And Lewis Hamilton is absolutely delighted. What a drive, what a performance by Lewis Hamilton in this race. And I expect him to be pretty emotional on what has been a very emotional weekend for the whole sport, and especially for Lewis Hamilton.
Absolutely. That battle for the win, that was epic. That was an epic battle for the win. And if anyone out there found that boring, I honestly have to question whether you honestly love this sport, because that was a great battle for the win. That was, what, a 60-lap battle between Hamilton and Verstappen. That was great. That was absolutely fantastic. By the way, Ferrari get their best finish of the season in P2, and this is the first Grand Prix in 2019 where Mercedes have not had a 1-2. So it does show that they're good, they're very good, but they're not miles ahead. Ferrari and Red Bull are still close enough to give them a fright when they are performing at their best. But yeah, there you go. I'll quickly post a picture of your winner. But yeah, a great battle at the end there. And by the way, my driver of the day is Lewis Hamilton, because the way he held off Verstappen on those old tyres is unbelievable. Unbelievable to hold off a driver for that long and win. It shows why Lewis is the best driver in Formula 1, without a doubt. As Bottas will join him on the podium. Valtteri, you have to say, unlucky today. He was there before the pit stops. And then, of course, what happened. And also, this is a great tribute to Niki Lauda. As there you go, Lewis Hamilton standing atop. Very, very happy with his day's work. Let me now post a different picture. There you go. Wait, that's the same picture. There's a different one that I just had. Let me get that up. But guys, right now in the live chat, let me know what you thought of the Monaco Grand Prix and what you thought of what happened in the Monaco Grand Prix. And I'll read out as many as I can in the next 20 minutes or so, and then we'll get to reviewing the race. I'll record that part of the stream where I'll upload that later on, and then we'll wrap up the stream after that. So yeah, with us now, guys, react to what happened today in the Monaco Grand Prix. Let's see what you guys have to say for us. By the way, I have forgot to read out a couple super chats. When I say a couple, I mean 4. So I'll read them out now. So 2 from Bobby Pignard, 1 for $4.99, who asked, do you think Leclerc has any chance of coming up the field? I did miss that, but well, I think I said before, no. And then he donated again, saying, rip, any hopes of scoring points for Leclerc? Still I rise, says Monaco Mania Gang Gang. And Jungle Brother says, Lewis is driver of the day. He donated that about 5 minutes ago for 2. Thank you, by the way, for the donations. I really do appreciate it. Yeah, Lewis is driver of the day, for sure. But yeah, let me know, guys, what you thought of what happened today for the Monaco Grand Prix. Before I do, though, I just want to ask Nib, and I'll give my opinion as well, what we thought of the race. I thought that was a pretty good Monaco Grand Prix. Was it great? No, but I thought it was pretty good considering what we were expecting, and I'd give it at least a 6 out of 10. I honestly thought it was that good. Nib, what do you think of the race?
I was a big fan of that race, and you know, it was intriguing and enthralling until the very end. Of course, contact between Verstappen and Hamilton at the Nouvelle chicane. Somehow, Lewis Hamilton didn't suffer any damage from that collision. It looked like pretty hefty contact of Max Verstappen's front wing with Lewis Hamilton's left rear tyre. What a race that was. A brilliant race, a brilliant Monaco Grand Prix. And I think this just sets us up for an even better season. Now, of course, Hamilton's gained a lot of points on Bottas, but wow, that was a great Monaco Grand Prix. There was battling earlier on in the race. Of course, Leclerc made a couple of good moves up the inside of Raskas and and a couple of other places. Of course, Verstappen was so close to Hamilton. That was a brilliant race.
Yeah, it absolutely was. Now, let me read out some comments from everyone in the chat. So, let me just see what people are saying. Crystal Racing saying Alfa need to sort their cars out immediately. He is a big Alfa Romeo fan. Well, Kimi Räikkönen fan. Thomas Hill says 7 out of 10 for that race. Yeah, it was a good race. I think there will be people who will come out and say, oh, what an absolutely terrible race. But I thought that was good. Lots of battles on track. At times, some good racing. I think for a Monaco Grand Prix in the dry, you can't ask for that much more than what we had. Maybe Max could have gone for it a couple times if he was a bit closer at certain corners. But yeah, great race, great battle. That's a battle we're going to remember for, I think, quite a few years for sure. The Hamilton versus Verstappen battle for basically the entire Grand Prix. Right, let me find some more comments. Lily Martin says, Lewis drove like a champion. Max didn't have enough talent to put his foot to the ped. He couldn't get close enough where it mattered. If he got closer into Mirabeau, if he was better at the top of the Casino Square hill, he probably would have passed him somewhere. You know, the hairpin or down into the Nouvelle. But he couldn't get close enough at that point. And if he did, I think he would have been able to get past. But there you go. Epic drive by Lewis. He now has a 17-point lead with his 77th win. Yes, he does. 17-point lead does Lewis Hamilton have in the Drivers' Championship from Valtteri Bottas, who will be keen, I think, to get this this race, this day over and get on to Canada, where Hamilton as well is very good at Canada, but so is Bottas. Bottas is very, very good at that track. Let me read out some more comments. By the way, I will post the results of the Grand Prix in a moment once they officially come out. So I'll post that in a moment. So if anyone joining doesn't know what the results are, I'll post that in a moment.
Also, I've just noticed Daniel Ricciardo has finished in 9th place ahead of Roman Grosjean. Oh, that's because Grosjean had a penalty, didn't he? I was just about to say, but Ricciardo did a fantastic job there. He did a 15.6 on the last lap, and he's just snuck P9 by a 10th over Roman Grosjean.
How has he done that? He was like 40 odd seconds behind.
He was 40 seconds behind, indeed. I'm trying to figure this out here.
Surely that's a timing error. There's no way he caught that. And by the way, it's not like it was 40 seconds with the whole race to go. There was like, 25, 30 laps left, and he caught that. That's like, a second and a half a lap?
On lap 75, the gap was 12 seconds, and then he got it within 5 seconds on the final lap. Wow.
Oh, great there by Ricciardo. That's a vital point. That might be a point that could promote Renault later on in the season into a higher position in the constructors. I will say though, for Renault and Haas as well with Magnussen, they really made a poor strategy mistake. Really poor mistake. Shouldn't have pitted. The reason the top four pitted is because they knew they had the gap to come out and be in the same order. So they had a rightful reason. But Ricciardo and Magnussen should not have been pitted by their teams because they were always going to come out in traffic and lose time. So I don't get why they did that. They had the pace, did Ricciardo and Magnussen, to be where Gasly and not where Gasly was, but where Carlos Sainz was. But yeah, that is not good by Renault. They definitely blew some points there. Definitely. Rani says, what a battle between Hamilton and Verstappen. Ace Ray says Lewis deserved the win. Cosmic says Red Bull shouldn't be penalised because Mercedes wants to double stack. Well, what Bottas did helping Lewis Hamilton, holding up Verstappen and Vettel. He's allowed to do that because under safety car conditions, what you're allowed to do is, what you're not allowed to do is of course go faster than the delta and overtake anyone. He didn't overtake anyone, and he obviously, by going a bit slower, he kept under his delta. So he didn't do anything wrong, and you're allowed to do that. You're allowed to hold anyone up under the safety car as long as it's not massively excessive to the point where you're doing it deliberately all the time. But when it comes to that, you are allowed to do that. But I do, though, want to see a replay of Verstappen and Bottas and that unsafe release. Go on, Neb.
I just want to add, of course, that is before the cars form behind the safety car, because of course once the cars are behind the safety car and everyone is bunched up, you have to be within 10 car lengths of the car in front. So just to avoid any confusion, that is why Bottas was perfectly fine with what he was doing. Yeah,
and we have seen that before. Kimi Räikkönen did it once at Spa in 2005.
Sebastian Vettel at Hungary, I most famously remember when Webber won there.
But, he didn't do it though into the pits though. He did it at the end of the safety car, didn't he?
Yes.
The one with Räikkönen was basically the same situation as Bottas. Montoya was the leader in the same team. He pitted, and then Räikkönen basically parked on the pit entry and wait for everyone to form up whilst Montoya got serviced. And that was back in the days where you had to refuel as well. So Yeah, it's happened before, and there's nothing wrong with it. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. Right, let me find some more here. Me too. Hamilton deserves penalty because of collision with Verstappen. Absolutely no. In fact, Verstappen, if anyone deserves a penalty there, it's Max Verstappen, but no one does. But if you're going to blame someone for that, it'd be Max Verstappen, because Hamilton had almost all of his car ahead, had the right to turn in, and Verstappen was the one who punted Hamilton through the chicane. So, yeah, that doesn't make any sense. Paul says Hamilton is a beast. JB says that was a pretty decent race in my opinion. Yeah, it was. It was I think, a pretty good Monaco Grand Prix. I'd say that's the best race, the best dry race we've had at Monaco since probably 2014, when Bianchi finished in P9 and we had craziness at the end of that Grand Prix. That was probably the last dry Monaco Grand Prix that was better than this. So yeah, good race today. Good race. This definitely was not the worst race of the season. Absolutely not. Michael Arvin says Lewis earned that win, should be in his heart, top 3 races all time for him. He'll definitely remember this one. He would have grown a few grey hairs during that Grand Prix for sure. Annette says the best Monaco I've seen for a while. Yeah, as I said, best dry race at Monaco for about 5 years. Great battle at the front, and it kind of reminded me a bit of not as much, of course, but there were a couple of very quick occasions where it did remind me of Senna and Mansell in '92, especially when Verstappen went for the move down the inside, or at least feigned to. And they're both kind of similar to those drivers, Verstappen to Mansell and Hamilton to Senna, but it was very briefly kind of similar to that battle. Not as good of a battle though. JDM says good race for Sainz, McLaren looking better. Yes, indeed. Great result for Carlos Sainz. Was it P6 in the McLaren? Yes, it is. P6 in the McLaren. Toro Rosso have picked up 10 points. So they've gained on McLaren, but Toro Rosso, I think, are P8 in the Constructors. So, yeah, they're nowhere near McLaren. But McLaren, now up to 30 points in the Constructors. And I think they are, 12 points ahead of Racing Point now? Who are still 5th, I think. Racing Point, I tell you, they've done well to remain in 5th in the Constructors, despite being so bad in the last couple races. Stella says, just joined, didn't watch the race. Was it carnage? Did it rain? Well, the finishing order is running along the bottom of your screen, but it was a dry race and it was pretty good. Very intense bout at the front between Hamilton and Verstappen. Right, let me find Paul saying, and you know what? This is something that I think Nib will like to debate. He says Ricciardo would have passed Hamilton. Do you agree, Nib?
That's very, very tough to say. I think Max and Ricciardo are on very similar levels in terms of their overtaking ability. I think Max gave everything he possibly could, and Mercedes still just had enough. Hamilton still just had enough to stay ahead. I don't think the result would have changed if it was Ricciardo in Verstappen's shoes.
Well, remember, 2016, Ricciardo was in a similar position, not for as long, of course, but was in a similar position. But it was a bit more difficult to follow that race, not because the cars were hard to follow in, it was because some of the track was wet. So it was a bit hard to, remain on track and not slide off. I think Ricciardo probably would have forced Hamilton to think a bit more defensively, because Ricciardo now has such a reputation of diving down the inside of people. Maybe Hamilton would have defended, maybe once more than he did with Verstappen. But yeah, I think Hamilton would have held on. And who knows, Ricciardo might not have even been quick enough to be that close. Verstappen this weekend, you have to say, has been unbelievably great in that Red Bull. Sebastian says, how did you find that race, Chazza? Pretty good. He says, I really enjoyed it. I'm happy for Vettel. Maybe he can take that form into Canada where they will be faster. And Sharman LP says, and it's true, how do you find 40 seconds in 18 laps? I don't know. You'll have to ask Daniel Ricciardo, because I don't understand how that's even possible. But...
And just to point out, at the end of the race, Ricciardo was on 67 lap old medium tyres. Grosjean was on 28 old lap medium tyres.
That's... Grosjean must have hit the wall somewhere or something. There's no... I don't get it. How?
Haas have just fallen asleep, I think, and missed it completely. Because Grosjean's pace was the same the whole entire time.
Yeah, maybe they thought, oh, well, we've got P9, might as well slow down and consolidate. Yeah, might as well slow down and consolidate P9. Maybe that's what they did, but I'm interested to see what Grosjean says after the race. Something must have happened. He must have touched a wall somewhere and maybe knocked off a slight bit of his front wing. He must have. And yeah, someone just mentioning, yes, Russell did finish ahead of someone. He finished ahead of Lance Stroll, Kimi Raikkonen, Kubica, and Giovinazzi. And I think we have to mention, don't we, Nib? Russell, one of the drivers of the day, in a Williams, beating Kimi Raikkonen in an Alfa Romeo that is what, 1.5 seconds quicker at least.
Absolutely superb by George Russell, one of the drivers of the day. Probably for me, probably a driver of the day outside of the top 10, because I think there's been so many brilliant drives in today's Monaco Grand Prix, but superb by George Russell, and showing that he has so much talent, and that if he's put in a better car, he can fully show it.
Absolutely. Yeah. As well, he was very good in Barcelona, because in Barcelona he was only like a 10th away from getting into Q2 in qualifying there. So he really is now showing what a driver he is, and he is a great driver. I rate Russell as Hamilton jumps in the swimming pool at the swimming pool. I think Russell is better than drivers like Norris, what do you call him, Albon, Kvyat. I think if he was in the midfield, he would be one of the best drivers in the midfield. I think he's that good. I think if you put him in the right car, I think he can win races for sure. I think he's a very, very good driver. And if I was running a racing point, and I had enough room, I'd put him in my car. No doubt about it. I really do rate the guy very highly. By the way, very surprisingly, Charles Leclerc is the only retirement from the Monaco Grand Prix. That's rare to have only one retirement. And it shows also the level of drivers we have in Formula 1. I think the quality level of drivers in Formula 1 is very good compared to what it was a few years ago. As just seen a replay of the start. Cosmic says, anyone surprised Charles Leclerc crashed out? After his start, kind of, because he was looking like he was unbeatable in that Ferrari at times. But yeah, and I've just seen now the replay hitting the wall, and you have to say, it was his fault. It was his fault. That's why he retired. He clipped the wall. He also clipped a bit of Hulkenberg. I think Hulkenberg wasn't at fault. I think Hulkenberg gave him enough room to get through. I mean, you have to remember, Rascasse is not really a place to overtake. It's very rare you see passing moves into the Rascas. But I think now I'm going to start getting the race review pictures and everything ready. So Nib, I'll let you take over reading comments. And by the way, I just want to say, yes, the race has finished. By the way,
Yes, Tony. The race has certainly started an hour, well over 2 hours ago now, mate. So, yeah, not sure where you've been, but you've missed what has been an enthralling Monaco Grand Prix. And now I'll read through some of the comments as Chaz has ordered me to do so. Lots of applause for George Russell in the chat, in particular from Crystal Racing. Um, just scrolling through the chat now. Prussia saying louder helmets P1 and P2. Indeed, of course, Hamilton running a tribute to Nicky Lauda on race day, and Sebastian Vettel had been running it all um, all weekend. Thomas Hill mentions that Lewis Hamilton was in the swimming pool. Indeed, that's where they're doing the media post race, and he just decided to go have a jump in the pool. Lewis Hamilton doing as he pleases at the moment in Monte Carlo. And being a bit critical of Charles Leclerc, saying Leclerc was almost, well, I won't say that word, but was very ruthless. So was very, what would be the word? It was very reckless with his. And we seen on the replay just before that the reason why he crashed was because he clipped the wall. It wasn't because Hulkenberg didn't leave enough room. He hit the wall, clipped Hulkenberg, and went spinning around. We'll move on to some more comments now. Okay, well, Tony, guess what? The race is finished, mate. So I'm not too sure what you're going on about there. Ace Ray saying Williams aren't last in this race. Indeed, George George Russell, of course, brilliant drive getting P15, and Robert Kubica finished in 18th ahead of Antonio Giovinazzi, who was 2 laps down in the end. So Kubica did well in the end to stay ahead of Giovinazzi, but we will keep reading some more comments. Astro Steve is saying, but Verstappen really was really second and challenged Ham, but got the 5-second penalty, and of course he got that 5-second penalty after after that contact and unsafe release between him and Valtteri Bottas in the pit lane during the safety car. I thought it was an unsafe release, but at a track where there's a bit more room and the two cars can go side by side, you would see that wouldn't be given as an unsafe release because there's enough room. But because there was contact and because of how small Monaco is, Red Bull have been given an unsafe release, and I do agree with it. It's an important rule to make sure that teams just don't throw cars out at each other in the pit lane. So, indeed, I think Max deserved that 5-second penalty for that. And now Andrew Jury in the chat, good to see you in here, mate, saying at least the 1-2 streak is over and Williams weren't last. Indeed, the 1-2 streak for Mercedes is over. 5 races in a row, a 1-2 finish, but they couldn't make it 6 here in Monaco. But I'm sure when it comes to Canada, they will be very strong and looking to get back into that and creating that streak of 1-2 finishes once again. Now we will just scroll down a little bit, or scroll down a little bit too much here. Shaman LP saying, honestly, Renault has good pace. They just don't know how to strategize. I wouldn't say that. I think most of these races they've got the strategy nailed on, but today in Monaco they certainly didn't. Daniel Ricciardo could have finished P5 or P6, and in the end he's finished P9. And also someone who was ruined by pit strategy was Kevin Magnussen, who ended up finishing in 12th, who was of course was right behind Ricciardo and pitted with Ricciardo at the same time under the safety car. But Magnussen lost out a lot more than Ricciardo, and of course Ricciardo finished P9. Just read down. Andreas, thanks for joining the stream. We will indeed see you later. Ruri is saying what a team Mercedes is. Indeed, Mercedes are just brilliant. You know, we've talked about this previously. Operationally, just every part of that Mercedes team is fantastic. The strategy's good. You know, if you look back at how many strategy mistakes, you know, Mercedes have made that Ferrari made in the last year compared to Mercedes, the only real major strategy mistake that I can remember is Austria, where they didn't put Hamilton underneath the virtual safety car and everyone else did, but it ultimately didn't matter because of Hamilton and Bottas retiring. But yeah, that Mercedes just leaps and bounds ahead of Ferrari. The only team that could really come near them in terms of how good they are is Red Bull. But I think Mercedes, they've got the standout team and the standout car on the grid, and that is why they are having so much success. Just look for a couple of more teams. Shazzle saying, why was Leclerc even in the driver of the day contention? I have absolutely no idea, as I've just lost your comment there. But yeah, I don't know why he was third for driver of the day. Absolutely ridiculous. I can give you a list here of drivers who are more deserving of being in that position than Charles Leclerc. I'll go through you now. So Pierre Gasly, Carlos Sainz, Danny Kvyat, Alex Albon, Romain Grosjean, and I'd say even George Russell. So that's nearly half of the grid who I think was better than Charles Leclerc. And of course, Charles Leclerc was the only driver to retire because of his own mistake. So I think he should be in 20th place for driver of the day. Not really sure what the F1 public was thinking with that. Just try to read a couple more here. Let's see where we are.
By the way, is there any questions in the chat? Because if there is, I can answer that as well if you want to find one, if there is one.
I will if there are any questions. Thomas Hill saying Canada should be a Ferrari track. Well, I don't think it will be because there's far too many corners, and the corners are medium and slow speed at Canada, and that's where Mercedes have the biggest advantage over Ferrari. Of course, the straight line, they will be closer there, but I don't think that that Canada will massively favour Ferrari, if I'm perfectly honest. Jin saying thank you for the stream and thank you for joining us. Indeed. There's been a couple of questions here saying, when are you streaming Indy? And I'm assuming that you're not streaming for IndyCar. So
I was thinking of doing it a couple months ago, but I thought honestly it'd be too much to do, because obviously, you know, we've been live for about 3 hours and let me just look, 3 hours and 17 minutes. We've been live for, and before we came to this weekend, it seemed a good idea, but when I think about it more, it's not a good idea. And also, I'm not educated enough on IndyCar to give a commentary that's good enough and deserving of that race. By the way, I just want to announce this. I am actually, at the end of the stream, I'm going to talk about what the videos are coming off on the channel soon. One video that is coming out between the end of this weekend and the Canadian Grand Prix weekend is a video about McLaren's IndyCar campaign failure. I will be making a video on that. So that will come out probably the week of Canada. And then, yeah, and then maybe after that, maybe I'll start to cover more of McLaren's IndyCar hopes. But as well, because Fernando Alonso is not qualified, it does take some of my interest away, because that was the main event, was Alonso at the Indy 500, but because McLaren were such a disaster with Fernando Alonso, which is not exactly a surprise, because McLaren have always been a disaster with Fernando Alonso. It didn't happen. So I will be making a video on that, but no, I won't be covering the Indy 500. I'm probably going to watch it, but I won't be able to cover it because I won't have enough time on my hands to do so. Is there any more questions out there, Nib?
I'm just every time I just try to slowly scroll through the chat, it then goes immediately down to the bottom, which is extremely annoying. I'm just trying to find where I was. We've got a little bit of a question here from Razar saying, can Max Verstappen be a title contender? Now, I certainly don't think so, but the way he's driving, and if Red Bull can improve, who knows? I think he might, if Bottas tails off towards the end of the season, he might catch up to Bottas, but I don't think he's in it with any chance of winning the title.
No, I don't think he has a chance. Because his car won't be quick enough for long enough. I think at the end of this season, you'll see what you saw at the end of 2018. Red Bull will probably have the best car right at the end of this season, and hopefully continuing into 2020. But no, he won't have a good enough car. For example, when we get to Canada, Red Bull are probably going to be behind Ferrari in terms of speed, even though Ferrari will probably mess things up and end up behind anyway. But in terms of pure speed, he won't have the pace to be able to compete with Mercedes. I hope he can compete with them on a regular basis, but it's just not realistic, is it, Nib?
No, it definitely isn't. And there's a couple of more questions from Ace Ray saying, at Chazza HDF1, do you like Formula E? So there you go, Chazza. Do you like Formula E?
Hell no. I absolutely hate it. If you love it, then great, but I hate it.
Yeah, there you go. Chazza clearly not a fan of Formula E or Astro Stevo. Just we're going on to all forms of motorsport today. Saying, did you watch MotoGP, Chazza and Niblo? I usually do watch the MotoGP, but I haven't as of the last couple of races. You know, MotoGP for me is probably the best form of motorsport, and I know most people won't like that, but if you look how close the action is and how close the racing is, it's just better than Formula One because of how many battles there are throughout the race. It's just more exciting than Formula One in its current state.
With MotoGP, I keep up with the results, but again, I don't have the time to really watch the races. The only motorsport series I watch is Formula 2, other than Formula 1. I might watch WEC on a weekend where there's no Formula 1. And the reason I tend to watch some of that is because I have been to a WEC race. I went to the 6 Hours of Silverstone last August. So I do have experience of what it's like. So I do have a bit of a look at that. But yeah, I haven't watched a MotoGP race in probably 4 years, 3 years, probably 3.5 years since I've watched a MotoGP race. It is a great series, but I just don't have the time to tune in, which is a bit of a shame.
Yep. And Mr. Random Guy saying, I missed the race. Was it good in your opinions, Chaz and Nib? We've already gone through this, but yeah, I think it was a pretty good race. Of course, there was a brilliant battle with Hamilton and Verstappen for the win of the race, and it was actually close. Verstappen made a couple of attempts to make a move on Hamilton, and you know, there was action earlier on in the race. It was a pretty good race, Random Guy. So I think if you have missed the race, you probably try and find the means to go and watch it back.
But thanks, Nib, by the way, for reading out those comments. I'm just about ready. I've just got to get one more picture, but I'll come back to the chat now and I'll read out a couple comments if I can. Sebastian says, This has made me love F1 again. The top four so close, made it intense in the midfield battle. Canada will be very interesting because Ferrari in his opinion, will be as quick as Mercedes. Well, I don't think they will be as quick as Mercedes, but maybe Ferrari will have a Bahrain. I mean, look at today. They were quite quick today, Ferrari. Yeah, Ferrari were not right there, but they were kind of there, were Ferrari. So maybe they will finally have a weekend where they produce enough speed to at least be competitive in the podium positions. But yeah, we'll see. Annoyingly, my computer is going very slow right now. So Nib, I'll hand back to you for the chat because my computer, is going very slow.
Okay, well, Shaman LP has just put in quite a funny comment, in my opinion. Renault, we can botch a strategy, and then Haas, hold my rich energy. That's a nice little joke there, of course. Astro Stevo asking, was Bottas' car damaged by pit stop contact? Yes, there was. I think he had a little bit of front wing damage, and that's why he had to pit again, and that's what put him behind Sebastian Vettel, and that's why ultimately he's finished P3. And of course, Max had some a little bit of floor damage, as Max, as you know, the tires just intertwined with each other there, so there was certainly damage on Valtteri Bottas's car, and that's why he pitted once again. Cosmic Hainer Racing Team saying Ham said he had no intention to stop, it was all a bluff. Well, I obviously can't listen to what he's just said there, but that's usually what Lewis Hamilton does. He complains a lot on the team radio about his tyres just to fool everyone and then just fly away from everyone else at the front of the race. Just looking for a couple of more comments. Mr. Random Guy saying Canada similar to Bahrain, so I expect them to be around the same as Merck. I think they will be closer to Merck than what they have been. Certainly at Barcelona and Monaco, of course, in qualifying there were 7 or 8 tenths off at both of those races, so I think they will be closer at Montreal. It does favour Ferrari a little bit more than the last couple of tracks, but I don't think they'll be on the pace of Mercedes. Mercedes' car is just too strong, and of course Ferrari had the better engine, but it just won't matter in the end. Is your computer sorting out?
Yeah, it's worked itself out a bit. I was just going to quickly put the results on the screen. I am going to use it in this part of the stream where I'm going to record and put it up as the review in a moment. But yeah, I'm just about to put the results up. So if anyone is confused or doesn't know what the results are, here they are. So your winner, the 2019 Monaco Grand Prix, is Lewis Hamilton from Sebastian Vettel in second, Valtteri Bottas third, Verstappen fourth, Gasly fifth. Look how close Gasly was at the end there. Carlos Sainz in sixth, seventh Kvyat, eighth Albon, ninth Ricciardo. As you can see there, beat Grosjean by about 0.14 of a second, I believe. Then Grosjean 10th, Norris 11th, then Magnussen, Perez, Hulkenberg, Russell, Stroll, Raikkonen, Kubica, Giovinazzi, and your only retirement is Charles Leclerc. But now I am going to quickly get into this a quick review of the race, which will be posted as a kind of a stream highlight or a video after the stream has finished here. So I'll get doing that in just a moment. I'm just going to quickly have a drink because my throat is a bit sore after commentating for 3.5 hours. So let me quickly have a swig on my drink. Right, and now let's get into this review of the race. So here we go. So now let's review the 2019 Monaco Grand Prix, which of course has took place today in Monaco. It was a pretty good race and a very intense finish happened indeed between Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen in this Grand Prix. Now, if you don't know the results again, here they are. Hamilton winning from Vettel second, Bottas third, Verstappen fourth, Gasly fifth, Carlos Sainz in P6, Kvyat seventh, Albon eighth, Ricciardo ninth and Grosjean 10th. And then not scoring points, Norris, Magnussen, Perez, Hulkenberg, Russell, Stroll, Raikkonen, Kubica and Giovinazzi. And your only retirement is Charles Leclerc. But now let's get into the teams. First off, Mercedes. A great tribute for Niki Lauda is this win from Lewis Hamilton. For me, driver of the day has to be Hamilton, because to hold on worn medium tyres for as long as he did, it was, 63, 65 laps, a very long time for Lewis Hamilton. And to hold on for that long and to not crack under pressure and get the win shows why he is the best driver on the grid, and shows also why he is leading the Drivers' Championship now by 17 points from Valtteri Bottas. A great for him and a great day for Mercedes. Bottas third. He will be disappointed, because if he had not been jumped by Max Verstappen after that unsafe release in the pits, I think Bottas could have gone for Hamilton and been right there with him. So disappointing for Valtteri, but I guess just unlucky with how things happened in the pits. But for the team, even though they didn't get a 6th consecutive 1-2 finish, still a great day for them. And again, for that team, a great tribute to the late great Niki Lauda. Next up, Ferrari. Good day for Ferrari, well, at least for one of their drivers, Sebastian Vettel, getting Ferrari's best finish of 2019, P2. Not too far behind Lewis Hamilton in the end. And I think Vettel drove well. He was consistent, stayed in there in the fight, was right there in case any contact or crashing happened between Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. And I think does deserve to finish in P2. A good drive from Vettel. And I think things are looking a bit more positive for Ferrari in terms of speed from their car after this Grand Prix. Hopefully, with Vettel, they can build on that for the next Grand Prix. For Charles Leclerc, though, well, a very disappointing race. Started in 15th. Got past Lando Norris quickly on lap 2, I think, at the Lowe's hairpin. Then passed Romain Grosjean at Rascasse. Tried the same with Nico Hulkenberg, but hit Hulkenberg and the inside wall. And because he hit the inside wall, got a puncture on his right rear tyre. That caused massive damage to his floor and tyre. It even brought out a safety car because of the amount of debris on track. And his race from then was pretty much over. So disappointing for Leclerc. But if Ferrari had not made such a critical mistake in qualifying, he wouldn't have had to do that. So yeah, you can blame Leclerc for today, and I will. But also Ferrari have to share the blame as well. But yeah, good day for Ferrari compared to what it was yesterday. Next up is Red Bull. Good day for them. Max Verstappen ending up finishing P4, but on track he finished in P2, right behind Lewis Hamilton. He drove so well, gave it everything, but it was not enough to get past Hamilton on track or build, enough of a gap to get the win at Monaco. But great drive from Max nonetheless, and I think continues to show why he has been one of the best drivers, if not the best driver so far in 2019. For Pierre Gastly, finishing P5 after starting P8 because of the penalty for blocking in qualifying. Good race. I can't fault him for anything. He also got the fastest lap point, so good points there for the team. And I think a good race there for Pierre. Good race for Red Bull, and they continue to hunt down Ferrari in the Constructors. But now let's go on to the midfield. Renault first. Ricciardo was really looking good in the midfield battle after the first lap. Passed Magnussen around the outside at turn 1. Great move. And was looking good in P5. Then the safety car came out and mistakenly Renault pitted him when they should not have. Because once he pitted, he came out in traffic when the safety car came back in and lost basically 2 pit stops worth of time to drivers such as Pierre Gastly, Carlos Sainz, Danny Kvyat, and Alexander Albon. He did get Grosjean at the end of the race because Grosjean got a penalty for crossing the pit line or the pit exit line at the run-up Casino Square. So disappointing there for Grosjean, who we'll get onto in a moment. But I think Ricciardo, in terms of his own driving, did the best he could, but the team definitely screwed him over there. And for Hulkenberg, well, very meh kind of Grand Prix. Nothing really happened for him. I mean, yeah, he had contact with Leclerc, and that did hurt his race. And then after a blocking of the track between Kubica and Giovinazzi after they crashed, that didn't help his cause. But he didn't really have the speed to get into the points anyway. So a better race for Renault than they had in Spain, but it could have been a whole lot better, and it should have been. Next up, McLaren. Great day for McLaren. Lando Norris was P11, but Carlos Sainz finishing in P6, and McLaren continue to pull away in the Constructors' Championship in P4. Great day for them. Carlos was very good today. Really just drove consistently, had great pace. Wasn't at times quick enough to be in the position he was in, but because it's Monaco, he held on ahead of drivers such as Danny Kvyat and Alexander Albon. So great drive by Carlos Sainz, who we know famously is great at Monaco. Norris, I think he'll be okay with how he did, but his pace after the safety car restart was very, very bad. And I think he definitely does have to work out just how that happened, because, yeah, his pace after the safety car restart was shocking. He was losing seconds a lap to cars ahead of him, so he does have to improve his pace. But great day for McLaren. Hopefully they continue to build on it. Next up is Alfa Romeo. Terrible day for Alfa. Kimi Raikkonen and Antonio Giovinazzi both had poor starts and were back there with the Williamses at the start. Then with Kimi Raikkonen, after staying out a long time, he did get up to P11, but then because he was on soft tyres for about 40 odd laps, had a massive train behind him and eventually did pit, but it was too late for him to come back through the field because he lost so much time through staying out on those soft compound tyres. So terrible for Raikkonen on his 300th Grand Prix, and also terrible for Giovinazzi. That's their worst race Alpha of the season by a mile. And for Canada, they definitely do have to improve. For Giovinazzi also, he did hit Kubica at the Raskas, which did block the track for a bit. And it was definitely his fault. Giovinazzi was definitely at fault. But I will get onto more of that in the incident analysis of the Monaco Grand Prix tomorrow at 12 PM UK time. Next up is Haas. Haas, they didn't have a good enough day for me. Kevin Magnussen starting P5, lost position to Ricciardo at the start, was looking good still in the first stint, was right behind Ricciardo, but then pitted under the safety car, and that proved to be a terrible decision as he got held up behind all of those cars, such as Norris and Hulkenberg and all those drivers, and Ricciardo and Raikkonen, and lost a lot of time and ended up finishing in P12. He had the pace, did Kevin Magnussen, to get into the points, but because his team screwed him over with the strategy, couldn't do anything about it. For Grosjean, he will be disappointed to finish P10, but I think he'll be okay with a points finish because he did start in 13th and did well to get into the points and show the pace needed to do so. But considering how good qualifying was, Haas should be disappointed with how they've done here. It was a better race this year than it was last year for them, but it could have really been better for them today than it was. Next up, Toro Rosso, who had a great day. This was, without a doubt, the team's best day of 2019 so far. P7 and P8. Didn't really do anything in the Grand Prix, just had very good and consistent pace throughout the race. And yeah, finished P7 and P8, and I think now are right on Renault's tail for P8 in the Constructors. Might even be past Renault at this point. So great there for Toro Rosso, and they are really becoming a dark horse in that midfield going forward, and hopefully they continue to improve with two, at the moment, very good drivers. And Racing Point next up. Yeah, kind of a better race than it was expected to be in terms of where they finished, but still not that good. The Racing Point car just isn't good enough. I think once we get to Canada, they will do better because that track will suit their car better. But here, it just doesn't suit their car, and their car is not far enough along to really compete with teams like McLaren and Toro Rosso right now. So, yeah, not good for Racing Point, and hopefully they can turn things around. Finally, it's Williams. Williams, a good result with Russell finishing in, I believe, 15th. Russell, I have to say, one of the drivers of the day. But yeah, Williams having not a bad finish, and their pace was not too bad either. Hopefully they can build on that. But that is it for the 2019 Monaco Grand Prix. And hopefully you guys will definitely be joining us for the next race in Montreal, Canada in 2 weeks' time. So there you go. That is your race review. That'll be uploaded soon on the channel, guys. As you know, a stream highlight of the race review. So there you go. But what we're going to do now, considering it's almost 5 o'clock UK time, I'm now going to read out final few comments, and then we'll come off the stream because, again, we have been live for a very, very long time. 3 hours and 40 minutes. So, yeah. Let me find a couple comments to finish on. JB says, any news, or asks, any news from the Magnussen Perez incident? I don't think there will be a penalty for that. I think everything when it comes to that is absolutely fine. Annette says Leclerc was almost suicidal. I have to agree. Let me find a final comment if I can, but again, my computer is not going that quick. If Vettel had messed up like Leclerc, he'd be crucified. True, but also you have to remember Leclerc is young and he hasn't made that many errors before. So, I mean, I'll definitely criticize him for it because he didn't have enough of his car through to really get the move done, but yeah, there you go. Serugara says, good drive from Vettel to get P2. And let me find a final comment if I can. Toro Loco. You know, I'm going to end on this comment from Toro Loco, who says, Lewis will win a record number of races this season. He predicts 14 victories and 19 podiums. That would be incredible, but we'll see what happens. But guys, that is it for your 2019 Monaco Grand Prix. Thank you guys so much for coming along. It's been a great weekend, tons of growth on the channel, tons of viewers. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe, as we do watch-alongs every weekend for a Grand Prix weekend. Bottom right of the screen, you can subscribe right there, or go to my homepage of the channel and subscribe and hit the notifications bell. But I want to thank Nib a lot, really, because I mean, he's been on live with me, what, 6-7 hours in the last day or so, and really has helped out. So Nib, really, thank you so much.
Oh, it's my absolute pleasure, mate. I absolutely love and enjoy being on stream with you. And of course, if I didn't, I wouldn't be on here, and I do. So that is exactly why I'm on here. So thank you for all the hard work that you do. And of course, you set up the streams, you get the images, you do the live counter down the bottom. You know, you do a hell of a lot. I think from everyone in the chat and from me, a massive thank you to you. But thank you so much for everyone for coming along and watching and supporting us this weekend. You know, we've had a good amount of growth on the channel, which is good to see. So many people watching during qualifying. So thank you, absolutely everyone. And we will all see you again next time.
Yeah, we will. Thanks, Nib, for this weekend. But yeah, thank you guys again for this weekend. It's been a great weekend, and I'm pleased to announce, well, not really announce, but it looks like we are not that far away from 5,000 subs. We should be hitting it at the end of June. If we do, then 10k is very, very possible. But yeah, thank you guys, as ever, for this weekend. Don't forget to hit this video with a like and also comment down below what you thought of this video and what did you think of the 2019 Monaco Grand Prix. And also, check out the Discord server. Don't forget to join the Discord server, rather. That is the best place for notifications for my videos and live streams. And also, it's the hardcore Chazza HD F1 community. Plenty of people in there, you know, having debate and chat. We've got over 200 people in there, so if you want to join the community, make sure to do so. Also, follow me on Twitter at Chaz6110 and check out my website, chazzahd.com, for more content like this. But guys, until my incident analysis video that will come out tomorrow at 12 PM, and until the Canadian Grand Prix of 2019 in Montreal in 2 weeks' time, it has been me, Chazza HD. Goodbye.